580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas for the next 3 hours with plenty to get to. Kansas City Chiefs draft talk with guests today. We'll talk a little Royals baseball. We're going to make a lot of fun of Dylan Brooks because his own team pretty much left him for dead. We've got our playoff roundup. What is wrong with you? Random question Tuesday. Oh, so much to get to over the course of the next few hours right here on 580 Sports Talk. We thank you for being a part of the show today. Comment section already popping off on YouTube. Matt, good to see you. Rest of you guys watching along on YouTube as well. Our channel called Sports on 580 WIBW. To all y'all on the text line too, 785-272-9429. We appreciate you guys being a part of the show today. Make sure you keep the YouTube comments or you keep the text line close. We've got some Royals tickets to give away a little bit later on today. Even though things are not feeling so great with the Kansas City Royals, nothing beats a day out at the ballpark. So we've got some tickets to give away coming up later on in the show today. Be listening out for that. Coming up here in this opening hour of the show, we will talk a little Chiefs football. And I've got a question about the rookies in particular. If you remember last year how important the rookies were, are we expecting something similar, or are the Chiefs going to need something similar in 2023? We'll get to that here momentarily. We'll talk rookies as well with Jordan Foote from Sports Illustrated. He's going to hop on with us bottom of the hour on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. We've also got Random Question Tuesday coming up this hour. In fact, we've already got a random question entry in the YouTube comments for today. So we'll get to all that coming up a little bit later on this hour. Also today, our level of concern with the Kansas City Royals. Yes, they are bad. We understand that part of it.
Level of concern about the big club is like a 17 out of 10. We know this.
But this is more of a bigger picture or certain specific guys or what this month or the rest of the months will look like. Not essentially, are they good or bad right now? A little bigger picture with that. That's coming up later on today. We'll also talk to Michael Swain of fog.net and 24/7 Sports for Jayhawk Weekly. Is there going to be a massive transfer announcement today? I don't believe so, at least as it pertains to the Kansas Jayhawks. Hunter Dickinson will be making his transfer commitment sooner rather than later, but after a lot of words that it would come today, sounds like maybe not so much today as in maybe a few days from now. We'll discuss all that coming up with Michael Swain, plus another former Jayhawk found a new home today. Zach Clements going to UC Santa Barbara. Going to be a gaucho.
He's going to love it. The campus,
who wouldn't?
The campus is right on the Pacific Ocean. I have spent, my mother grew up in Santa Barbara, so my grandparents lived there when I was a kid, spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara. He's going to love it.
Who wouldn't? 21 years old, Santa Barbara, California?
It's amazing they're not a powerhouse.
Right?
Like, you get kids on some of those West Coast campuses. Like, if you get on that campus and you leave, like, what are you thinking? Like, I don't know why Pepperdine isn't always good. I don't know why UCSB isn't always good.
That's got to be the number one counterpoint to the whole you can't recruit to Manhattan thing, right? Because by that logic, Florida Gulf Coast and Pepperdine and UC Santa Barbara, Miami to a degree, they would all be best programs every year in college basketball, maybe football too. They're not. So I think that's a good fit for Zach. We'll talk about that too coming up with Michael a little bit later on today. We've, of course, got What Is Wrong With You, our 580 Sports Talk headlines, including our playoff roundup. That's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll talk Royals-Orioles. God, worst series of the year. Royals-Orioles. So many sounds. Very hard.
Royals-Orioles.
Need Tim Kirkjian for that one. I don't even know how you would do the Baltimore accent for that.
I tried and failed. So I fell down so you could not walk at all.
All of that and more coming up over the next 3 hours here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got Royals baseball tonight, 6:40 first pitch against the O's, with pregame beginning right at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. And, of course, we'll get to your texts, 785-272-9429, and your comments on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of the channel throughout the show today. Let's get right into it, though, Dan, with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I was thinking about this last night. Do you remember at the end of last season, we talked about it a lot, Super Bowl week itself, in fact. I feel like a lot of our brain space and our airtime going into Super Bowl 57 was, dang, these rookies play a pretty big deal with this team, huh? Like George Karlaftis and the best running back on the team, Isaiah Pacheco, and the cornerbacks, not just Trent McDuffie, but Josh Williams and Jalen Watson. These dudes played a massive role for the team last year. And really an irreplaceable role. I mean, the Chiefs needed George Karlaftis to be good over the course of the year, certainly down the stretch. And he was. Between the playoffs and the regular season, he started all 20 games, and he ended up with 7 sacks. That's a really good rookie year. 6 in the regular season, 1 in the postseason. That's a really good rookie year. Trent McDuffie was banged up at the beginning of the year, but right off the jump, he was really good. I mean, he was a starting caliber player immediately. Watson was good. Pretty much from right after he was pushed into his role, he was good to go.
He had the pick 6 in his first game.
Yeah,
exactly. He didn't play hardly at all in the opener. In week 2, he had the 99-yard pick 6 that won that game against the Chargers.
Joshua Williams had a little bit more of an up and down year relative to the rest of the rookie class. But honestly, for a 4th-round pick out of a Division II school to assimilate that quickly and to be that productive that quickly, that's pretty good. That's a good year for anyone, certainly someone who had those kind of other obstacles, if you want to call it that. He was majorly productive. Again, Isaiah Pacheco, team's best running back, leading rusher in the Super Bowl, all of that good stuff, huge impact player. Leo Chanel, maybe not a huge role because Willie Gay and Nick Bolton are the nailed-on starters, but he still played, contributed on special teams. He actually played a bunch in the postseason last year, if I'm remembering correctly. Sky Moore factored into the offense all year. All these rookies, pretty much everyone except Darian Kennard, played some sort of important role down the stretch for the Chiefs last year on the way to a Super Bowl. How many rookies are going to be that kind of player this year? We already talked about that a little bit yesterday, but how badly do the Chiefs need them to be major contributors right away? And I'll ask Jordan about this when he talks to us a little bit later on in the hour. But part of me almost thinks that, and maybe this is reactionary, maybe some guys go through sophomore slumps. That's certainly possible since the Chiefs are going to, again, rely on so much of last year's class, again, this year to be established players now. Maybe there's a sophomore wall that they end up running into. But I sort of feel like they don't need a ton from a lot of these guys. I mean, you look at Felix. You look at both edge rushers, honestly, at the same time. Both Felix Uzama and B.J. Thompson. That gives you 5 defensive ends going into this year. And Amenahu, we know what he is. We know what Karlaftis is. And really, I think we pretty much know what Dana is. Maybe there's still a little more upside he can get to, a little more potential before he hits the ceiling. I mean, that makes Felix DE4. And I look at Thompson essentially as I looked at Mike Dana when he was a rookie. Like, when you get on the field, don't do something dumb, and and play on special teams. That's going to be enough. And I think Thompson can do that. I watched a little bit. I'm not going to lie and say, oh yeah, I know everything about B.J. Thompson, but I watched a little of his tape after he was picked. And
grinded that tape?
Yeah, I
ate that tape.
I see it. I see the vision with this. It reminded me a lot of Dana, honestly. Guy who was at a Power 5 program, ended up going the FCS route.
Almost the reverse.
Time. Yeah,
the reverse
exactly.
Dana. Yeah, I can go because he went from Central Michigan to Michigan.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. The reverse there. So I think with that rotation, you know what you're getting from your top 3, or at least you assume you do with Karlaftis. You don't need Felix to be great right away. A contributor, sure, but great right away? No, I don't think so. Rice, I mean, you don't really need, you need him on the field. You don't want him to take a redshirt year as, a pick you traded up for essentially, but you're not going to need him to do anything overly complex, and generally wide receivers as rookies aren't asked to do that in this system anyway. Morris is probably the one right off the rip that I would think he's got to have a big role because he might be your starting right tackle. And I think if the Chiefs had their way, considering they traded up to get him, considering the right tackle spot is a complete grab bag at this point, totally up in the air, he is probably the one you would like to see have the biggest impact right away. But then as you roll through day 3, Shamari Connor, I know a lot of draft people, like Louis Riddick, I know was big on him. I know a handful of other people on TV. I want to say, I think it was someone else at ESPN also said they really, really liked that pick. if they think he can replace L'Jarius Sneed, maybe he is an impact guy right away. But if not, they've got plenty of bodies in the secondary. They don't need Coburn to make an impact right away because they brought back Wharton and they brought back Noddy. And obviously, Chris Jones is still there. You might be able to kick Omenahu inside on obvious pass rush downs because he's a bigger defensive end. It feels like you don't need a ton out of those guys, which makes this even more encouraging to me that you drafted a bunch of dudes who are mostly upside. Like, we know what Felix can be right now. Pass rush specialist, probably got to fill out the body a little bit more, but he's so young, so much upside there. Rice is pretty much the same way, just as two examples. You can stomach that kind of class even a little bit more when you know we can build these guys up. We don't need to throw them right into the fire.
So having as many guys contribute to a Super Bowl champion as rookies right off the bat, that is very much the exception and not the rule. That is not something that anybody should expect to happen every single year moving forward. The reality of it is when you have a Super Bowl caliber roster, which Chiefs do because they just won the Super Bowl, you can be a little bit more patient with your young players because they aren't being asked to play those big roles. Wanya Morris is an interesting fit in that regard because he is a guy who probably could use some development just in terms of his technique. The athleticism is very much there, but his technique, everybody says, needs some work. But he's also the guy with the most direct line to his starting role because if he outperforms Lucas Niang in camp and in the preseason, he's going to be the guy on the right side of that offensive line tasked with protecting the best and most valuable player in the NFL from week 1 onward. And so that is a position where I'm still a little bit surprised if they're not, and I could be reading the situation wrong, and they could have a lot more faith in Lucas Niang than we realize. And that faith could be entirely justified based on what they see at practice, what they see in the facility, what they've seen on film. I don't know. But it does feel like right tackle is up for grabs. And I'm still a little surprised that the Chiefs didn't fill that need in the draft with a player who maybe was more ready-made to step into the lineup, even if it wasn't a first-round pick. Somebody who was a little more plug and play at that position. But maybe they feel like Morris is really close. Maybe they feel like with a mini camp, with working with Andy Heck, they can make the tweaks they need to make, and they can get him in position to play on week 1 and feel good about the chance that he may have to, because it's not just whether he beats out Lucas Niang, right? What if Niang gets hurt? What if Juwan Taylor gets hurt? All of a sudden, this dude's got to play. He's T3 right now on the depth chart, right? Like, they haven't signed a veteran to be a swing tackle. It's Niang and it's Taylor and it's this guy. So obviously there's a certain level of faith in him because that is such an important part of the team. But it is not the same kind of pressure as, like, Trent McDuffie was under that pressure last year because he was drafted at a position of such need. The Chiefs needed a starter, and McDuffie was good enough to start. He started essentially as soon as he got healthy. There isn't that need, that desperation for this Chiefs draft. It feels like that they can come along at their own pace. And the reason for that is because last year's draft was such a smashing success.
And that's kind of the draft is a crapshoot and all that. I understand that. But that's sort of the chain reaction of having good drafts is you need to rely on other drafts in the future a lot less, or you need them just to be good because you have to build the roster long term, right? But you don't need to say, hey, we have to go get a corner because last year it fell apart, last year it didn't work. No, you can just say we've got our guys. So even if Shamari Connor does not become that dude, you can figure something out with L'Jarius Sneed. You can extend him, you can trade at another piece, whatever. You've got Watson, you've got Williams, you've got McDuffie. You can make all of those things work going forward. You want to build your depth through the draft in that way. The Chiefs just happen to luck out, frankly, and it's a credit to the coaching staff and the development, but also to just kind of luck that they ended up with a bunch of guys who could start or at least play regular snaps, specifically talking about the secondary here, but really across the entirety of the roster. It just feels to me like this is a class that we might don't consider it a failure if we just don't hear from them a ton right away. Because I think their best football is probably a couple of days away, or a couple of years away. Yeah, a couple of days, certainly. But, I don't think Felix and UDK Uzama, whatever we see from him week one, whoever the Chiefs' opponent ends up being, they will. I don't even know who the Chiefs' opponents are for this coming year. I haven't looked into that. But whoever they end up playing on Thursday night to open the season, whatever Felix is then is not going to be anything close to what he will be, I think, by 2025, when he will have time to add on more bulk, when he's going to get the gist of what Spags is trying to do a little bit more.
And will be at that time as old as most of the other edge rushers entering the league this year. Because remember, he's still only 21.
That's crazy. Just barely 21, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. By the way, just for the sake of this aside, the Chiefs, aside from their division games at home this year, get the Bills, Bengals, Dolphins, Bears, Lions, Eagles. They play the Eagles? Oh, man. Who's going to be opening night? Bengals?
That kind of feels like it will be.
I feel like it's got to be Bengals or Bills. Although it could be the Eagles.
Nah, I don't think they do Super Bowl rematch right off the rip. They haven't done that before.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. No precedent. Yeah, I would say it's probably either the Bills or the Bengals. And I would think the other one might be later in the season. Kind of like what they did last year, Bills first half, Bengals second half. If I remember that correctly, Bengals were week 12, I think.
Yeah, Bengals, okay. Yeah, and Bills were week 5 or 6.
This is a pretty fun schedule for the Chiefs this year.
It is.
I mean, every schedule is fun when you're watching the team that has Patrick Mahomes, but then...
And pretty nice to get those games at home.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
For the sake of wanting to keep those guys at bay and get home field advantage in the AFC playoffs, it's nice to be able to get those guys at home in the regular season.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's been a tough place for the Chiefs.
Buffalo is always a tough place to go. Philly is a tough place
for anybody.
Go. Yeah. You know what team has the worst record from last year on the Chiefs schedule this year? Home or away?
Who's that?
The Bears. I just like to say that out loud. But no, I really do think this is a draft for... You didn't have to draft immediate need guys, which is frankly a good thing, because generally when you're drafting at 31, you're not going to find a ton of those guys. But the fact that the Chiefs can come out of this and say, look, we've got pieces for the future, we're going to end up being okay with that. And also, just reflecting on that defensive end rotation, I'm really happy with that group. You want to go from, free agency and the draft. You want to plug holes with free agents, and you want to build your depth and find your core players through the draft, right? It sort of feels like the Chiefs have done that over the last couple of years at that end spot, where you've got Karlaftis, who, based on what we saw from him as a rookie, you would think this guy's going to be a long-term starter. Felix and UDK Uzama, you took him with a first-round pick. You get that fifth-year option. You would think this guy is going to be, at some point, a long-term starter. Dana has become, I think, I don't know if he's a starting caliber player, but he's a nice backup edge rusher. I think he's got a completely fine role. I think you hope that BJ Thompson becomes that. And you add in Charles Omenihu, who's been a good player in the past, fairly short-term deal, but for 2 years, he can factor in and be an edge rush threat, probably be a starter right away. I mean, that's a really nice spot to be in. And I think that's a credit, again, to this front office and Brett Veach to put together a very deep group that in the very recent past had pretty much no depth at all. And to do it by getting rid of one of your stalwart players in Frank Clark. So to be able to go from weakness to, I don't know about strength, but certainly a positive and a full room, I think is maybe the most important part of this draft. It makes the Thompson pick look even smarter in the 5th round. So I end up thinking this draft is even a little bit better. I don't know if you've read a lot of draft grade stuff. I think most of those are pretty dumb, but Chiefs have pretty much come in most places like low end C+, high end B+. It's just
about what you can expect to be when you pick 31st.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get an A in a draft when you have the last pick of the first round because you, again, won the Super Bowl the year before. And the Chiefs are in a position where they don't have to hit a home run out of the gate. They happened to last year. In a way, again, that is the exception and not the rule. But this year's class has the luxury, again, of being able to develop and not be counted on in the way that a lot of other teams are going to count on their draft classes. You can wait and develop and grow and hope that these guys hit their ceilings, because there are some very tantalizing athletic, physical ceilings with guys like Felix Anudike-Uzomah and guys like Wanye Morris. And if they have the chance to hit those ceilings to become those kinds of players for the Chiefs, then they're going to be doing a lot more winning.
Yeah, not really a shocker in that regard, the way this team has been put together. And given the people who are running this team right now, there's going to be a lot of winning in your future. Let's get to a quick break. We will talk to Jordan Foote more about the draft coming up later on this hour. But first, after this timeout, we've got Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk.
Are you in the
Us into Random Question Tuesday on this May 2nd edition of 580 Sports Talk. Shout out to Real Big Fish. Brendan and Dan here with you. My random question for you today, Dan, this was inspired by a tweet I saw last night. What is your favorite piece of media or pop culture that glorifies the Midwest?
That glorifies the Midwest?
Yeah. I'm interested in your opinion because you're not a native Midwesterner.
I'm not. Like, there's a lot of debate about what the Midwest is, right?
Yeah. We're talking like, I'm going to go with the most general version of it. So we're talking like Ohio to Kansas, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. Throw Nebraska, Iowa in there.
Favorite piece of media that glorifies the Midwest. The first thing that comes to my mind is disgraced rapper Kanye West. And opening Jesus Walks with the line, you know what the Midwest is, young and restless. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah.
But as far as like a movie or a TV show, I have a feeling I know your answer.
Really?
I do. I feel like if this were like match game for Sports Tacos, I feel like I might know your answer.
Interesting. I was going to go with a music genre in specific, Midwest emo, which is
okay.
That's like how I cut my teeth in becoming a disaffected youth.
Okay.
Talking like American football, my guys at Dowsing, they're a Chicago band, Captain Jazz, all that good stuff.
I thought you were going to say that 70s show.
Yeah, that's up there as well. the fact that they're in Wisconsin does help. That's probably that'd be my number 2. That's my number 2.
I consider it a Midwestern.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
In terms of like the values of it.
They even have a line in one of the episodes where they say half the town's population is in this room, and there's like 10 of them. So small town Midwest, yes.
Like Field of Dreams, Hoosiers, movies like that. Like
I saw
someone sports movies.
I saw someone reply with American Gothic. I was like, is this 1940? What kind of answer is that? But fine, I suppose.
My random question today: what would you wear to the Met Gala? Met Gala was last night. I saw it on the Twitter timeline. I don't understand personally why all these famous people dress up so expensively, so wildly, just to go sit in a room and talk about Keith Hernandez and David Wright for 3 hours. I assume that's what the Met Gala is. I've never been told different.
Jerry Seinfeld's there.
People come and they sit down at tables and they say, hey, man, remember Benny Agbayani? Rihanna in the corner holding court with Doja Cat, and the two of them discussing Ray Knight scoring the tying run in the 1986 Game 6 of the 1986 World Series.
The Mets would be a very funny Met Gala theme.
Oh, yeah. People would do a lot of interesting things with the pinstripe.
Oh, yeah. I asked my wife what the theme was, and she told me, but unfortunately, I forgot. I do not remember what the theme was last night.
Jared Leto showed up in a full, like, cat costume.
Yeah, that was a, like, personal anecdote about Jared Leto I really didn't need to know. Like, okay, dude, we get it. You're into that.
Terrifyingly realistic.
Really do not want to know what your internet search history looks like.
Jason Derulo did not fall down any stairs at the Met Gala this year, which was devastating. That's like throwing out the first pitch. Should be a yearly tradition.
Doja Cat looked like a cat. I didn't know what she looked like until I saw a picture of her yesterday, and people were freaking out. I said, "Oh, that's so Doja Cat."
You haven't been in those chat rooms?
No, I have not. I actually tweeted about this last night. I would wear a t-shirt and jeans. I would put a hat on, possibly backwards, and I would probably wear black Vans. I would wear what I wear literally every day. I don't get it. Like, and that's fine. And it is for people who have more money than I have hair follicles on my body, like just unfathomable amounts of money and, pretentiousness and all that. You guys can enjoy that. I think you look like clowns, and I don't understand why you would do this to yourself and go in public. The most normal looking person there was Patrick Mahomes. He and his wife she's wearing a black suit. She was wearing a white dress. Like, I thought they looked nice.
That's a level of celebrity, like Mahomes getting the Met Gala invite. He didn't get that after the first Super Bowl, I don't believe. No. That's a level of celebrity that you have to really strive to attain in the sports world. That's like Serena Williams level sports celebrity. She was there. 785 texter said they wear a Who Farted t-shirt, which is a great choice. Kyle really in the YouTube comment says, give me the duct tape suit or a custom Crown Royal bag suit, but the red or green one's not the purple. I like the purple bag.
Oh,
maybe the red and the green, little classier. Yeah, I'm going with like a home field t-shirt and like pair of joggers.
Yeah. See, but the thing is, like, if I was famous enough that I got invited to the Met Gala, I'd be, like, they'd write about me in Vogue. Like, oh my God, could you believe what he was wearing? Poland's freshest outfit. Like, that's what they would be saying. Anne Hathaway was there. What has Anne Hathaway been in the last decade?
Commercials?
Has she?
I don't know.
I'm
probably getting her confused with Anna Kendrick.
Like, there's a number of people. I'm looking at a list of celebrities who were there. There are people that I didn't even know were there. Like, I don't even know who they are. Well, okay, I know who Margot Robbie is. Russell Westbrook was there.
Sure. James Harden said on Twitter he wished he could have been there. He had to put 45 on the Celtics' head last night. And unfortunately, he couldn't go. He had a prior commitment.
This Pedro Pascal gentleman.
Yes, the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I had to ask my wife this weekend, like, who is this guy?
He was in one of the Marvel movies, too. Might have been Wonder Woman.
Yeah, he was in one of those. I didn't know why he was such a big deal and why people are, like, real creepy about him. He showed up in what looked to be, like, Carmen Sandiego's jacket with shorts on under it.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Carmen Sandiego is a style icon.
Well, yes, I'm not denying that. I'm just, like, I don't get it. I don't understand how fashion works.
Now, anytime I even wear, like, a blazer, I'm like, this doesn't feel like me. Like I am much more of a, like, dress up for me is like I'm wearing a polo shirt today, like a golf shirt. That's dressed up for me. Anytime I wear a suit, I feel like an imposter.
Dude, dressed up for me is literally wearing a solid colored t-shirt and like my nice jeans.
But I could throw like a blazer over a button down and maybe some khakis and show up and say, hey, remember when Kenny Rogers walked in the one run that lost the National League Championship Series in 1999? That was a drag, wasn't it?
Remember the time Luis Castillo dropped that pop-up in the 9th inning?
Remember Andy Chavez's catch in the 06 NLCS? Yeah. That didn't matter because Carlos Beltran couldn't get the bat off his damn shoulder.
Sir, please. This is the Met Gala. We've got to get to a break. Jordan Foote joins us next on 580 Sports Talk.
I'm Jim Cheska with your money now.
And Dan here with you. Thanks so much for swinging by. And a big thanks to our pal Jordan Foote, who's now on the line with us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, joining us for the second week in a row. What a great treat for us. Jordan is the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report at Sports Illustrated, and you can find him on Twitter at Footnoted. That's Foote noted. Jordan, great to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us a second week in a row. How was your experience at the NFL Draft this weekend?
It was fun, man. It was a good time. It bigger turnout than even I anticipated, and I shouldn't have underestimated Kansas City. When the city truly does care about something, I'm not sure there's another place on earth that shows it better than we do. It was a really good time. Had some fun. The media experience was great. Everything was fun, and It also helped that the Chiefs had plenty to do on draft weekend and made it exciting. So it was a really fun time, man.
Yeah, definitely nice that the Chiefs gave us something to stay engaged with throughout the weekend. So let's just start big picture then, Jordan. They make 7 picks. They trade up 3 times, back 1 time. In fact, back all the way into next year's draft. What was your favorite pick of the weekend for Kansas City?
So I think it's between 2 different guys, and I think the value is important to take into account here. First, Wanya Morris. Sorry, I learned yesterday that it's Wanya. In the 3rd round at 92, and the Chiefs, everyone said no one wants to trade up with the Chiefs. The Bengals didn't stop them from making a 3-pick swap up to 92. Morris has the length the Chiefs desire in their tackles. He has the athleticism that they desire in their tackles. He's a really fun player. He's a guy that I think pretty much was universally graded as a 3rd-round pick, and if he can do a couple things to fine-tune his handwork, he should be a starting caliber player. And for the Chiefs to get that at 92 and get more experience with an Oklahoma O-lineman, I think that's great. And he has the prior experience working with Trey Smith. He's from the school the Chiefs are familiar with. It gives them very cheap potential competition with Lucas Niang. So I think that was a good pick. And then Keandre Coburn at 194 to get a potential Derek Nottie replacement. Nottie, the first few years he was with the Chiefs, really his rookie contract, he was objectively really solid. Last season kind of slid back down a little bit and had a rough year. So Coburn's a guy that should get snaps in year 1 and play a fairly significant role as a nose tackle as a rookie. I think you can't get much better value than that. So I gave the Coburn pick an A. And I think the Morris pick is probably an A-. So those were both fantastic.
On the Morris point, and you bring up the fact that he played with Trey Smith back when they were at Tennessee, before Trey obviously went to the NFL and before Morris ended up transferring to Oklahoma. How much value do you think there is in that prior relationship? I've said it a couple times now already this week and since the draft that, communication and chemistry, that is so important when putting together a quality offensive line. But do you think that's been a little overblown, or do you think there is some immediate positive returns you can get from having that pre-existing connection?
Yeah, I think on the contrary, and I used to be firmly in the camp of if you know a guy or you've worked with a guy or you're familiar with this scheme or you're close to home, that stuff doesn't matter. But I think it does. And when you put your shoes or your feet in their shoes, so to speak, you're a guy that has experience. You're going to be working directly next to somebody you've played with before. You have a little bit of an inside edge on how to get acquainted. I think that the Felix Anudike-Uzomah pick, also him not having to move very far, like just from a very basic human standpoint, that familiarity is huge. I think Morris seems to be a really intelligent player who can pick up the system pretty quickly. So having that, I think, does give him a slight edge. It's definitely better than going into a place where you know a grand total of 0 people. So anything that can help him hit the ground running a little bit quicker, it's not going to be a massive deal breaker. But I really do think having that connection with Trey Smith, that's going to end up helping him out on the field and off the field.
Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Jordan Foote, the deputy editor of Arrowhead Report, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, you can find Jordan's work on Twitter at Foote Noted. That's Foote with an E at the end, Foote Noted. Jordan, you mentioned Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the first-round draft selection of the Chiefs, the final selection of the first round. What do you like best about this selection, and how high do you think the ceiling is for a player who starts his NFL career only 21 years old and was really productive in a defensive end role in a 3-down lineman formation where he might see a little less of that, and as a result, a lot fewer double teams maybe in his NFL career?
Yeah, I think anyone that goes into a situation where you're not going to be demanded to be a starter right away. I know that some people think just because he's a first-round pick that he absolutely has to. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think the Chiefs have Mike Dana, who can play capably those reps. I think Charles Omenihu can capably play those reps. I'm not ruling out potentially a veteran being brought in. Also, George Karlaftis. Like, they have guys that will make his life easier. That's without mentioning Chris Jones. When you were on the same defensive line as him, you're going to get some better looks and you're going to get less attention, I think. And I was a little lukewarm on the pick, to be frank with you, to start off, because I just think that he is not a ready to roll high impact rookie, and the value was a little bit too underwhelming. But with that said, you're basically using a second round pick on him. I mean, at 31, you're never going to get a crazy high end guy. So I think he is a little bit of a speed rusher. He's something different from what the Chiefs have done before at the defensive end group, and that applies to their 5th round pick as well. This is a player that was misused a bit at K-State. He was used as like a 4-eye pretty frequently. I think he's going to get good opportunities to display his talents. I think he's going to bring a really high motor. He's going to understand the system quickly. He's also not going to have to play 100% of the snaps or even 80% of the snaps. That's going to help him a lot. And he's got George Karlaftis. So I think the immediate impact is there. The ceiling with him being so young, it's pretty considerable. I'm going to be honest. I think that George Karlaftis probably doesn't have too high of the ceiling just because of the athleticism and flexibility and bend limitations he has. Enudike Uzama doesn't have those. He's a really good athlete. He's flexible. He can get around the edge pretty easily. He has a little bit of speed to him. So I think you're looking at a guy, if things break correctly, he can give you some 10-sack seasons in his prime, and George Karlaftis probably can too, but the upside and longevity of that with Enudike Uzama is probably a little bit more considerable.
And to your point about Felix not having to be a major contributor right away, not having to start right away, with all 3 of the positions the Chiefs targeted with their first 3 picks, I think most people assumed they were going to walk away, even from the first 2 days of the draft, with a wide receiver, an edge, and an offensive tackle. Those were the obvious needs, and the Chiefs checked all those boxes. But it also feels like with those picks, with Enudike Uzama, with the aforementioned Wanye Morris, and with Rashee Rice, their wide receiver pick, that the Chiefs targeted upside, athletic upside, more so than the willingness to play, or the ability, I guess, is a better word, to play right away and play significant snaps right away. Do you think that is the right strategy, the way the Chiefs should have gone about the draft?
I think at 31, it definitely plays. And I think at 92, it plays too. Like, people forget, and I think they almost take for granted a little bit, the Chiefs aren't always going to get a 2022 draft class. They're not going to have multiple spots in that first round every year. Even though they were late picks, they were still quality. This draft class shouldn't necessarily be compared to that. I think just because they took a different approach, because those guys hit, they can afford to take some more swings on a Felix or a Rashee Rice or a Morris or even Shamari Carter. You can go down the list. These all are relative swings, but also guys that should play fairly decent snaps as rookies in some capacity. So I like the swings on athleticism. Some of those guys are older. They're not all that young besides Felix. So it's a little bit of a blend. I think you're going to get some guys really of your team. And I think because 2022 was so successful and they have that Super Bowl, they have the rookie class that's now going to be better in year 2 probably, they could afford to be a bit more aggressive. So I think they should be able to. I think the value is a little questionable. I know some of the charts believe the Chiefs just absolutely reached at all these spots. Time's going to tell if that was the truth, but I think Veach has earned a bit of the benefit of the doubt there. And what better place to bank on that than bank on that upside in Kansas City?
We're chatting with Jordan Foote, deputy editor of Arrowhead Report, the Chiefs vertical over at SI.com. You can find him on Twitter at FootNoted, and of course, all of his great work covering the Chiefs over at Arrowhead Report at Sports Illustrated. We've been talking about the good so far, Jordan, but were there any picks or maybe any decisions trade-wise or even value-wise, like you were just talking about, that made you scratch your head a little bit for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think the trades, and I kind of plugged them into the Rich Hill trade chart just because I was curious. And Veach actually got pretty good value on all of those. I think that he mainly accomplished better than what he has in the past in terms of what he gave up and what he got back. And he's mentioned that every team uses a different chart, so I'm sure that they will yield different results. But for the most part, the value he got with those, pretty solid. The question mark I had, and I still am not too enamored with this pick, it's the Rashee Rice pick at 55. Moving up for him, you can tell that the Chiefs obviously liked him a lot. But when you're a guy who's going to be 23 and your main go-to trait is the ability to win contested catches, you look at the Chiefs, they've never done that. They don't do a ton of work outside the numbers. They don't throw YOLO balls, so to speak, to their wideout. MVS was kind of the guy they did that to last year, which is not his game. Rashee Rice is 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's not Dwayne Bowe. I've seen comparisons to that. He's a good athlete. He's going to win against his own coverage. He has some yak ability. I like the upside with him, but also he is old and he is, he's bad against man coverage. I'm just going to say it. That is something he was not good at in college. I get that he produced as a senior. He played through an injury. He has a ton of admirable traits. And I think there is a world where he does become a really good contributor in this offense. But I think the value was a little bit too rich, even though I had him mocked at 63. But I think upside's there. The Chiefs, again, I'm going to keep saying it, have earned the benefit of the doubt. They know way better than I do. But I kind of did scratch my head just a little bit at that pick.
The undrafted free agent class for this year, I always have a hard time knowing exactly who to trust on these things because sometimes it's, oh, yeah, I saw that guy play. I can't believe he didn't get drafted. Okay, fine. Sometimes I'm just getting screamed at by people on Twitter that, no, this was my guy. He was actually a fifth-round prospect. I can't believe this, whatever. And sometimes I think people are just completely pulling it out of their you-know-what. So I will go to you, Jordan, as the authority on this then, because I know you've been tracking all these UDFA and mini camp signings. Is this actually a good group of undrafted free agents for the Chiefs?
So I think yes and no. Yes, it's a good group. No, none of those guys are going to make a tremendous impact. Like the Chiefs aren't going to get the upside that they think Justin Ross has. Like, oh, he can be your number one receiver. They're not getting that. But can Isaiah Moore be a really solid linebacker at some point in his career? I think it's possible. Did I give Cam Jones a 5th or 6th round grade? I think that it was crazy he went undrafted. Yes, I did. Do I think Truman Jones from Harvard? That's another guy I have my eye on. I think that he brings some Mike Dana type qualities and can be a guy that steps up and plays good run defense and offers a little bit of upside as a pass rusher. And then Deneric Prince, I think he can not only make the team, but play snaps as a rookie if the Chiefs ask him to. You also look at the signing bonuses and the contracts that those guys signed for. They were giving pretty considerable contracts to them. You're getting $135 base salary, or sorry, $135,000 base salary guarantee to Cam Jones. You're getting Deneric Prince got over $200,000 guaranteed. Truman Jones is getting almost $240,000 guaranteed. These are guys that the Chiefs aren't just kind of taking a flyer on; they're investing in. And the guys that make rookie minicamp probably not going to make the team. Probably won't be around too long. These are 90-man signings, and then once the roster cuts down to 53. You're not going to have them around. But there's probably 3, maybe 4 guys that I could realistically see challenging for some role on this team in 2023. I don't know what the league average is league-wide for guys like that, but I think 4 for the Chiefs is probably solid, and they're giving some heavy guarantees compared to what they have in the past. They're fully investing in these guys, and I think it's smart. I think if you can get really cheap guys that are going to be players 49, 50, 51, 52, 53 on your team, you could do a lot worse. You're not getting a bunch of high upside, but I think the Chiefs could do a lot worse than kind of scouring the UDFA market and getting some solid guys.
Jordan Foote is the deputy editor for Arrowhead Report, the Chiefs Vertical over at SI.com. That's where you can find all his work covering the Kansas City Chiefs. You can also follow him on Twitter at FooteNoted. That's FOOTE noted. Jordan, thank you so much for hopping on with us a couple of times in just the last few days. We appreciate it. Know this is a very busy time of year covering the team, but we appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks so much, buddy.
That is Jordan Foote from Arrowhead Report at Sports Illustrated hopping on to talk all things Chiefs draft with us here on 580 Sports Talk and hopping on with us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. That's going to do it for the 3 o'clock hour. But after we get to the national and local news, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we will get to the Royals Concern-O-Meter through 1 month of the 2023 season. We've got What Is Wrong With You and Michael Swain to join us all next hour on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday, 4 o'clock hour of the show. Just getting started. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock today. That's when we'll kick it over to the Royals Radio Network. And Royals baseball versus the Baltimore Orioles. How excited are we for the Royals to be back in action?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah!
We do have, though, a little breaking Royals news.
Oh, breaking news.
Per Ann Rogers on Twitter, Matt Quatrero, Royals manager, speaking to the media before the game. Royals made a couple of roster moves today, first and foremost. Let's start there. Michael Garcia has been called up.
Best day of Fulton's life.
Nicky Lopez joining me and Jake on Team No Appendix, it appears. So
I saw Jake tweeting earlier. It was like, man, that could keep him about a month. You lose all your core strength. I said, oh, good. Appendix Insider has logged on.
Yes, Team No Appendix. We know a little something, Jake and I, about what it is to go through the appendicitis. So Nicky Lopez, appendicitis, he's on the 10-day injured list. Also, the Royals called up Freddie Fermin, the catcher, and sent Franmil Reyes, who wasn't hitting at all, down to AAA Omaha. Now, that was curious to me because, well, wait a minute. Now the Royals have 3 catchers again. Is that a concern about MJ Melendez's health? Is there some worry about Salvi? Usually they don't carry 3 catchers. Well, they're not, because for the foreseeable future, MJ Melendez isn't a catcher. According to Matt Quatrero, and this is from Ann Rogers' tweet, MJ Melendez is going to start in the outfield exclusively for the near future, which is why the Royals recalled Freddie Fermin to be the backup catcher. Matt Quatrero says it's to simplify things for Melendez as he looks to get back on track offensively. Quatrero notes this plan could change based on the health of Salvador Perez and or Freddie Fermin, but for now, Melendez will be in the outfield.
You brought that up not long ago, right? That it was going to be smart to just stick him somewhere and just have him concentrate on one thing?
I think it will make things easier for him in a sense, because he's learning essentially a new position, having to do it at the major league level. Like, he still hasn't had like a full season's worth of games in the outfield. There's still going to be an adjustment period, and that's tough. But I do think that the less you have to worry about going from position to position, the more you can focus on your offense a little bit.
That's great. I'm all for this. Try something. It's not working. Let's do something different that makes a lot of sense, and we hope that it will turn into something. The logic is there. This would not have happened under a previous regime. I know that the bar is below, like, the lowest layer of the core of the earth. Okay, I get that. But this is something. Try something new. Try something that'll work. Why wouldn't you want to do that? All for it. Good. I'm glad that he's an outfielder now. I'm glad we can stop with this.
Yeah. Also, more breaking Royals news. This is not great news. Drew Waters, who is injured, currently on the injured list, was starting a rehab assignment or preparing to start a rehab assignment. And apparently the back injury or some lower back tightness flared up on him in a game over the weekend. So he's going to stay in Surprise to be reevaluated. And so his start of a full rehab assignment has been put on pause for now. So that is a disappointing development for Drew Waters, who the Royals were hoping to have in center field this year.
Don't love that. That part's not so good. Otherwise, though, I mean, a good day for the Royals. Try something new. Try a new approach. Put MJ in a better situation. Bring Michael Garcia up. Fulton deserves this. For caring as much as he does, he deserved to have his guy called up, at least for a hot minute. if for no other reason than to give him just a little bit of a respite. Right now, why don't we go and give away some Royals tickets right now? So we have 2 options for you when you call it.
Before we get a little more negative or maybe hopeful, maybe there will be some hopeful notes struck in this upcoming segment.
There might be.
Before we get there, let's send somebody to the K.
So we are this is the most customized package of Royals tickets that as far as I'm aware, we've ever given away. So we're gonna give you a caller number here in just a second. You have your choice when you call in, not just of what game you go to, any home game we can get you tickets for. You can have either lower level for a pair of tickets for the lower level, or we can get you a family 4-pack upper level. So it's your choice. If you want to go just you and your spouse, maybe just you and a friend, maybe you and you're going to, I don't know, treat a guy you meet on the street to a game. You're just going to have 2 of you.
You and your favorite child?
Ooh, yeah, that's very possible. Lower level, we can give you 2. Or we can get you upper deck, family 4-pack, you and 3 friends, 3 family members, whatever it will be. You get the choice. So because of that, we're going to go with caller number 7, because the Royals so far have 7 wins. So caller number 7, you can have either a family 4-pack of tickets or a pair of 2 in the lower level. You let us know the game and the kind of tickets you want. It is our most customizable set of tickets I think we've ever given away for a Royals game. Call in 785-272-9429 on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Dan's going to get your information, and we've got some Royals tickets to give away to you. Again, like I said earlier, maybe this is not the most fun time to watch the Royals themselves. It's been bad, and we're going to get to a little bit more about our concerns going forward here in a second. But, nothing beats a day at a baseball game. A spring or summer day at a baseball game, absolutely nothing beats it. So go enjoy the K. And also, maybe you get to see a great opponent. Maybe you're going to tell us, hey, I want to see a game on X day, and we're going to go see X team. Okay, great. Perfect for you. So Dan's getting some information right now. We will let you know who ended up winning our tickets here in just a matter of moments. We did have a Royals topic we wanted to get to. No game yesterday, so no loss to recap. But they will start a series with the Baltimore Orioles tonight. Again, 6 o'clock pregame start time, 6:40 first pitch, taking on the O's. It will be Ryan Yarbrough for the Royals against Tyler Wells for the Orioles tonight. We'll preview the game itself a little bit later on. But we wanted to take a look at how concerned we are for some general team topics in general, but also for a few specific players who the Royals need to be good, both in the immediate future and in the long-term future. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much concern do we have for these certain players or these certain topics? 10 is the worst tier. We're saying 10 is extremely concerned, extremely worried, extremely not good. 1 is, nah, it's fine. Not going to worry about that. By the way, Dan, who is our tickets winner?
Mike.
Shout out to Mike. Mike won pair of tickets.
Mike wants 2 lowers, and we're going to hook up with Mike with the 2 lowers.
I love that.
Thanks to Mike. Thanks to everybody who called. We'll hopefully be able to hook you up next time if you did not win this time.
Yes, this will not be the end of our ticket giveaways. We've got plenty to give away through the spring and summer. So we've got multiple opportunities to keep winning tickets on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. But to get back to the point, 1 to 10, how concerned are we with certain players, certain positions, certain themes with this team? Let's start with a couple players in particular, and let's start with Brady Singer. Brady Singer got rocked on Sunday. What previous start? Great, best start of the year.
Yes.
He looked like late summer 22 Brady Singer, who was one of the better upper half of pitchers in the American League, upper third of pitchers in the American League. Statistics back that up. Eye test backs that up. He was really good 2 starts ago. Sunday, awful. 8 runs, 5 hits. What was it? 3 walks?
5 hits, 3 walks. The 3-run homer to Buxton was the killer. Everybody who reached base against him scored.
Yeah,
that's not great. Not very good. 2 2/3 innings. Didn't get out of the third. I think I'm at an 8. I think I'm at an 8 out of 10 with Singer. I talked about it last week, and this is the thing that has concerned me for so long. There's just no consistency with these young arms that the Royals have thrown out there for the last 3 years. 4 years now. This is year 4 for Brady Singer. And you see the good, you see the flashes, and then it hits a wall. You get a stretch of, we see it. We see why the Royals have put so much into these guys, why they drafted them high, why they've invested so much time and energy into them, and then they get rocked. Then they get shelled. There's just not enough consistency, and the fact that we are in year 4. And I know year 1 for Brady was very short. It was a fake season. I get that. But I feel like we are getting close to the point where we've had enough time to think maybe he's just an inconsistent arm. Maybe 8 is too strong. Maybe it's closer to a 7-ish. But either way, I'm I'm leaning fairly concerned here about Singer. I mean, he's given up hard contact. This isn't, well, dang, he just got unlucky and gave up a bunch of little bleeders into the outfield, bunch of seeing eye singles, and they ran the bases well on him. No, I mean, these are some outings where he is getting crushed, and that really worries me at this stage of his career.
Yeah, the hard contact is a problem. He is giving up, in fact, harder contact on average than just about anybody in baseball. He is in the first percentile in average exit velocity against. People are bruising the baseball against Brady Singer so far this year. He's given up 6 home runs in 29 2/3 innings, although it is fair to note that 4 of those came in one start, and it came against one of the best lineups in baseball in the Atlanta Braves. The strikeout numbers are about the same. Walks are up a tick, but nothing alarming. The problem for Singer in his starts is that, a lot of times you'll see a pitcher kind of be able to wobble their way through a day where they don't have their best stuff. Like they'll give up, 10 hits and a couple of walks in 6 innings, but maybe they only give up 4 runs. Maybe they manage to stay competitive. Not every base runner is scoring, so to speak. But in Brady Singer's starts so far this year that have been bad starts, because his first start of the year, 1 run in 5 innings, that was totally fine. And then the Arizona start was excellent 2 starts ago. Against the Giants on the road, 8 base runners, 5 of them scored. Against the Braves, 10 base runners, 8 of them scored. Although, again, 4 home runs. Against Texas, 8 base runners, 5 of them scored. And against Minnesota, I apologize, it was actually 9 base runners because he did hit a batter. 9 base runners, 8 of them came around to score. He's not dealing with traffic very well. So he's been a little bit unlucky. But also the quality of contact against him suggests that something is wrong. And what I think it is just a lack of sharpness to his fastball right now. The slider has proven it can still be a swing and miss pitch, but the fastball just doesn't have real good movement and location right now. It's sitting up in the zone a lot more often than it's sitting down around the knees. And a pitch up in the zone, a fastball up in the zone is a hit me pitch for a major league hitter. And so for Brady Singer, I think that let me see how I want to phrase this. Like, I don't think his ceiling is ace. I don't think his ceiling is like Garrett Cole, Jacob deGrom, like prime Max Scherzer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that's what we're talking about here with Brady Singer. So he's always going to be a guy who gives up a little bit more contact. He's not going to strike out 12 guys per 9. He'll be right around 9 per 9, which is what he is now.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what he was last year. 8.8 strikeouts per 9. But the location of his fastball has to get better. I am at a 5 with Brady Singer out of 10. I'm right in the middle because I do think that it's not great when your fastball's getting beat up like this. And his slider, when he has not gotten strikeouts with it, is also getting hit around. And those are his 2 best pitches. And if you are giving up loud contact with your 2 best pitches, obviously there's an issue. But I also think that pitching in the World Baseball Classic and not getting to pitch much in the World Baseball Classic may have thrown off his preparation for the season in a way that could be a negative for him. So we're just 6 starts into this. 2 of them have been good. 4 of them have been pretty crummy. I think still there's a chance for Brady Singer to get back to his 2022 form, but it starts with better fastball location. He's throwing a lot of strikes. That's good. He's still striking guys out at a decent rate. That's wonderful. But the fastball location has to get better.
I'm with you on the ceiling for Brady Singer. If you look last year, July 13th through September 30th, so his final 14 starts of the year. Now, the last one was a dud. He gave up 6 runs in 5 2/3. It was not a good final start to the year. But even including that, his final 14 starts, 2.46 ERA, fielding independent pitching was 3.16. So it's not like he was getting crazy help from his fielding and he got really lucky. I mean, a little bit, but that's a pretty accurate number. Opposing batting average was just 239. Opposing on base was just 301. Not crazy elite, but plenty good enough. I mean, that's top half of your rotation kind of starter numbers. That's a really good 3 or a low 2 kind of starter for sure. It's so infrequent. And we have had so many moments where we thought this is where he turned the corner. This is where the switch flipped. This is where it turned on and it stayed on for him. And I'm just at a point where I wonder if it is going to stay on or if he's just always going to be an up and down guy, which again, the good, even if it's every other start, well, then he's going to give you a chance to win every other time out, but how reliable is that? That's why I'm a little bit more concerned.
Too much hard contact and too much hard contact in the air. And when that is happening, generally that is a problem of location. You're not throwing your pitches in good spots. He's got to get the fastball down. That is going to be critical for him moving forward, because when he pitched well against Arizona, he got a bunch of ground balls. When he pitched well against Toronto, he got a bunch of ground balls. When he hasn't pitched well, it's been a lot of balls in the air. Even the outs have been in the air. So got to keep the ball down, especially with the sinker, and trust that infield defense. And I think things will level out a bit for him.
Other players that we should get to here. Let's go to MJ, because we just talked about him at the top. I'm slightly less concerned now. I mean, not that I was super concerned about MJ going into this exercise. I'm a little less concerned now, knowing that he's not going to have to worry about, am I catching? Am I DHing? Am I an outfielder? I got to worry about that. I'm working on pitch framing. I'm doing these fielding things I'm trying to work on. I'm also trying to get the bat right. I would say I'm at about maybe a 3 or a 4 with MJ. At a 4. I would say at a 4. Because he on the flip side of Singer, he is hitting the ball really hard.
And not many people hit it harder. He's in the 97th percentile in average exit velocity and 94th in hard hit percentage. Dude hits it on the nose. The reason that I am higher, I'm a 7 out of 10 on my concern level for MJ. Making hard contact doesn't matter if you can't make any contact.
That's a fair point.
That is the problem that we're looking at for MJ Melendez right now. He's in the 4th percentile of strikeout percentage, striking out 35% of the time. 42% of the time he swings the bat, he comes up empty. 42% of the time he swings the bat. He just creates a cooling breeze for the catcher and the umpire. That's all he's doing with those swings. It wasn't that bad last year. Certainly there's a chance for it to get better. And if it doesn't, there's still value in somebody who's going to hit the ball as hard as he does when he does make contact. If he's going to sting the ball and he's going to hit his home runs, which I think he will, that kind of hard contact will usually result in home runs. He doesn't have an extreme ground ball profile or anything like that. So the dingers and the extra base hits are going to come for MJ. I'm not worried about that. But a guy who strikes out 30% of the time and doesn't hit for a real high average, but hits for power, you can live with that if that's your catcher. But the standard for how good an offensive player you need to be is a lot higher if he's going to be a right fielder or a left fielder or a DH. And striking out 35% of the time, he's not going to get to that standard. So I think that number can go down. I do. It was less last year, and hopefully he starts making more contact when the weather warms up. I'm not writing off MJ yet, but now if he's going to be a full-time outfielder, the standard for his performance at the plate just went up. And so that's why he's a 7 out of 10 for me.
Is this something that can be fixed?
Some guys just swing and miss a lot. And look, like, you can live with it if the results when you do make contact are loud. And like Mike Zunino has carved out an excellent career as a major league catcher because he hits a bunch of home runs. He's been an all-star. Even though I don't think he's ever hit higher than like 200 in a season, he's been an all-star because he's good behind the plate and he hits a bunch of home runs. What was Zunino when he was an all-star? What year was that? Was that 2 years ago?
Was it that recently?
I think it was. 2021, he was an all-star. He hit 33 home runs for the Rays. He also had a career high batting average. No, check that. He did hit 251 one year for Seattle. That's wild. I didn't know he did.
Yeah, that's when I thought he was an all-star, was around 17, but he didn't make it that year.
No, he did not. But he made it in 21. He hit 33 home runs, batted 216. Like, as a catcher, you take that because, I mean, that's a 559 slugging percentage. And I think MJ's got a 500 slugging percentage in him if he's going to hit the ball as hard as he does.
Man, that split between an on-base barely over 300 and a slug of 559 is wild.
Yeah, Mike Zunino's an interesting player.
Very.
But, like, you could do that if you're a catcher. Like, if Mike Zunino had been a right fielder or a left fielder, you're going to need to get on base more than 30% of the time. It's like Salvador Perez, right? Salvador Perez's bat is really good because it comes with the fact that he plays catcher and plays catcher all the time. If Salvador Perez had been a first baseman or a left fielder or a right fielder, that level of offensive production might not have been quite as acceptable. So that's where my concern goes up for Melendez. If I thought he was going to be the long-term catcher in a world where there were no Salvador Perez, and thank God we don't live in that world, but in a world where MJ Melendez was the everyday catcher for the Royals, I wouldn't be very concerned. But if he's going to be an outfielder, he's got to make more contact.
Yeah, I was going to say it, that we are not going to live in that world as long as Salvador Perez is around. The other specific player I think it's worth getting to, Bob Witt. We talked a couple weeks ago about the blog post over at Royals Review about, well, what if he's just Eric Hosmer? And I don't mean that in a flattering way. I think Bobby Witt's ceiling is a lot higher than that. I think, again, you can see reasons why all of baseball was so high on him as a prospect, why he was a must-have pick for the Royals at number 2 overall back when he was drafted. You can see all of those things. It hasn't quite come together for him at the plate, but again, he hits the ball really hard. He is walking slightly more. He is striking out slightly less than he did as a rookie. He's really fast. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
He's fielding a little bit better. His fielding metrics are slightly better.
And the Royals say they're even more encouraged by his growth as a defensive player than the numbers suggest.
I think for me right now, I would say I'm a 3 for Witt.
Yeah, I'm right. I was going to say a 2. And here's the thing. Like, he started off pretty well. He's been in a bit of a funk. He didn't have a very good road trip. The thing that's interesting about his batted ball profile right now, 14% of balls off his bat have been pop-ups. He's popping the ball up a lot. If you can run really fast, popping the ball up doesn't do you a whole lot of good. You got to shorten that swing plane a little bit and trade some of those pop-ups for ground balls he might be able to beat out. That's the thing. With Eric Hosmer, he hit all those ground balls. Some guys, you don't want to hit a lot of ground balls because ground balls are outs. Like, you run like Eric Hosmer runs, which is not like below average, then a ground ball is an out. You run like Bobby Witt Jr. runs, a ground ball to short, deep short, base hit. Ground ball up the middle, that could be a base hit. Ground ball, deep down the line at third, that could be a base hit. So I think the quality of contact, maybe Bobby Witt's a little too homer conscious right now, and that's leading him to pop the ball up. Again, that's just me speculating based on what I've seen, based on what the numbers are telling me. But once he levels that out a little bit, because he's not going to pop the ball up 14% of the time all year, his batted ball profile still looks really good otherwise. He's hitting the ball hard. He runs like a deer, improving at shortstop, the youngest guy that we're talking about here. Yeah, I'm like at a 2, maybe even a 1. I just think he had a funky week and a half, and I think he's going to get back on track and still really like where he's headed.
The one general thought, I know this isn't anything new for the Royals, we've talked about this a bunch, is that for the guys who are just black holes, and there are too many of them on this roster, we know that. The thing that sucks is that there's no cavalry, there's no backup, there's no reinforcements. Like, they just are what they are. Like, not that I would ever wish, physical health issues on anyone, and I hope Nicky Lopez is, healthy and good to go as soon as possible, but you replace Nicky with maybe Michael Franco, who maybe is good, maybe isn't. Hard to say, but Jackie Bradley Jr. is still on this roster. Hunter Dozier is still on this roster. Matt Duffy is not going to be an above-average hitter for very long. Those guys are still populating too much of this roster. Massey is still around. Eaton's going to be up again at some point, I'm sure of it. Like, you're just stuck in this spot where you need these young batters specifically to carry such a gigantic load, and then the pitchers to be great in game in, game out. It's hard to win a lot of baseball games like that. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight. We'll preview the game in the 5 o'clock hour. First things first, though, let's get to a break. We'll get to what is wrong with you next on 580 Sports Talk. Time for What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to this real quick before we get to Michael Swain. Do want to remind you that What Is Wrong With You is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal. Top City Metal Supply can be found on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. The par 4 punchers, our winner from yesterday, the gentlemen adorned in their finest slacks and pastel polos who got in a fight over slow play on the golf course, featuring some of the funniest old guy kicking I've ever seen. Just flailing around with the right legs. They are our winners from yesterday. Dan, why don't you go first? I've only seen the headline of your story, but I'm mad. Like, do you know where you are? Do you have any idea what establishment you are in when this is happening?
Yes, there's a certain expectation that you have to have if you're going to a Popeyes institution.
Mm-hmm.
Popeyes is my favorite restaurant in the world.
It's delicious.
I love Popeyes so much. I love our local Popeyes so much. I love all of the Popeyes within shouting distance of this radio program very much. I've been to all of them. I've been to the Manhattan Popeyes. I've been to the Salina Popeyes, both of them. I've been to the Lawrence Popeyes. I love Popeyes. The thing about Popeyes is, no matter where you go in this world, if you go to a Popeyes, when you go to the counter to make your order, you have to have a certain expectation that they might not have what you want, or you might not get what you ordered. That's just how Popeyes works.
Yep.
There is a great thesis about this that lives on the internet, written by the great Spencer Hall of Every Day Should Be Saturday and Shut Down Fullcast fame. The article is titled "Popeyes is Perfect and You Are the Problem." And this is something that all real Popeyes heads understand, that these people in Worcester, Mass. clearly did not, because they allegedly vandalized the Worcester Popeyes and attacked employees this weekend after being told their order could not be completed. The two men were reported to have been at the drive-through window of the Park Avenue Popeyes around 4:30 p.m. Saturday when they were told an item in their order wasn't available. This is a common occurrence when you go to Popeyes.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, 10-minute wait for spicy. Hey, we're out of nuggets. Hey, we're out of strips. Hey, we don't have any chicken at all. I hope you want shrimp or our apple pies.
Hope you want fish.
You know what? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I like their shrimp tackle box. It's all good food. That's the thing about Popeyes. Take what Popeyes gives you. Learn to accept your blessings as they come. These people would not learn this lesson. In response, police say the men threatened a worker before entering and disrupting the restaurant. Police say the pair threw food at the staff and vandalized restaurant equipment, including a TV and a register. Upon leaving, they say the men also threw a rock at the drive-thru kiosk. Popeyes closed down following the incident, but had the drive-thru up and running again on Monday. Employees told WBZ the events took place after the men did not receive jalapenos on a chicken sandwich they had ordered. That's intense. The chicken sandwich, if you order the spicy chicken sandwich at Popeyes, which is, again, the best fast food chicken sandwich, it'll make your eyes water a little bit. Getting jalapenos on it is a wild move, and you can order them. They are on the menu board at the Popeyes. You didn't have them? You know what? Tough. God didn't want you to experience that today. That's just how Popeyes works. You roll with the punches when you go to Popeyes. And
you're lucky you got chicken.
You don't throw punches. You roll with the punches. Yes, you're lucky you didn't get 2 fish fillets and some green beans in your carryout bag. But again, that is what the fates determined you deserved on that day, if that is what you end up with when you leave Popeyes.
It's like international waters a little bit. My story, speaking of the water, is going to take us to the Florida Keys, where sheriff's deputies arrested 2 men accused of breaking into an impound lot to steal a car that they had previously rented that was then impounded. Rory Stein, a 32-year-old man from Australia, as well as Stephen Yetman, a 36-year-old from Boston, have been released from Monroe County Jail after posting $40,000 bond each. They were arrested after deputies pulled them over on U.S. Route 1 in Middle Keys City of Marathon on Tuesday night, or last Tuesday night. Earlier that day, the two broke into a tow lot on Stock Island, about 40 miles south of where they were eventually stopped. They had forced open the gate and stole a 2022 Chevy Camaro. Linhart, the spokesman for the sheriff's office, said the men had rented the car and it was towed from a business where it was not permitted to be parked. Deputies say they caused $5,000 in damage to the gate, and the break-in was captured on a security camera. The men were wearing the same clothes all day and were caught on a bunch of security cameras wearing the same thing.
I'm just amazed that a guy from Australia and a guy from Boston can talk to each other and understand each other.
Yeah, it's like a buddy cop movie. That's like a Bizarro World Peaky Blinders. Yeah, so these 2 guys were traveling together despite being from 2 different countries, and they rented a car, parked it where they shouldn't have. It got towed. And then instead of just paying to have it taken out of the impound lot, they destroyed the gate to the impound lot. Who you got?
I got to go with the guys who tore up the Popeyes.
Yeah.
Like a true what is wrong with you moment. Like understand what it is that you're getting into.
Just chill out.
Yeah.
Just chill out. Does that beat the brawl on the golf course?
I got to say no.
No, I don't think so.
These dudes were throwing hands and feet over some golf.
Like, dude.
Over a nice leisurely round of golf.
Dude, go to the clubhouse, have a smoothie together and commit white collar crime together. I don't know. Just don't do that.
Break your club against the nearest tree like a normal person if you're mad on the golf course.
Let's take a quick break. Michael Swain's up next on 580 Sports Talk.
or play at than the University of Kansas.
The goal is to win championships, pure and simple, one day at a time.
That's what made a difference today in the game.
I was hoping that was vodka.
Dollar signs.
Mike. What day is it, Mike? What a scene in Lawrence, Kansas tonight.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports, and he joins us every single Tuesday at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. You can find Michael on Twitter at mswain247, and of course, all this great work covering KU over at Fog.net. Michael, I will lead with this. I will make a promise to you today that this segment, this radio program, will be better than Hunter Dickinson's podcast. I will make that promise to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brendan, it's not hard to beat that. Talk about painful. You know, everyone has a podcast these days, right? That's the joke, and I guess I fall in line with it too, right? I've got my own podcast, and it's all right. It's definitely better than what I think everyone just had to listen to. I'll probably just leave it at that.
So can you take us through kind of a recap of what was going on today? There had been rumors that Hunter Dickinson was going to make his transfer commitment announcement today, and certainly sometime in the somewhat near future. So then he hypes up his podcast he does through Barstool Sports, along with former Iowa Hawkeye Jordan Bohannon, as well as their host who works for that company. And it didn't really happen. They had the podcast, but do we know anything new about what Hunter Dickinson's plans are?
No, not really. I think it seems like he's pretty torn. I have my own personal opinions on probably what's going on here, but I think as soon as you saw some of the publicity for the podcast ramp up, I think it became pretty apparent that this is a clicks game, right? And I think, everyone's got content and they want eyeballs on it, so totally respect that. But I think it's very clear that it was going to be a talk about visits, kick the can down the road to a decision, whenever that is. And I guess they've agreed now where it's going to be on Barstool's Instagram page. I don't know if that's going to be for certain, but I think it will come at some point this week. Hunter did say that he hasn't decided yet. I think this is a situation where, you still got schools maybe trying to move around in the background. Obviously, I think NIL has been rumored as something that's been pretty important in this entire process for Hunter as he looks to maximize his name, image, and likeness. And, he's not a guy that's guaranteed to be a long-time NBA player. So you can't really fault him for trying to maximize his earning potential while he has the ability to. So it's kind of just now a wait-and-see game. I think it's been pretty consistent throughout that if someone says they know for a fact where he's going, I think that they're probably making it up or getting bad info just because there's so much conflicting info out there as everyone tries to make educated guesses.
I wanted to ask you about the NIL arm of this because, look, I mean, if you've got only so much time to play college basketball, maybe play basketball, as at a high level period, make some money on it. I've got no problem with that one bit, but, we know the strengths of coming to Kansas, and it seems like a good fit. We know why he might want to go to Maryland. You've talked to us about that before, or maybe Georgetown, although it feels like they might be sliding out. Why Villanova would be intriguing. Why Kentucky. How big of a pull factor for any of those schools do you think the NIL is?
Well, I think for every single one of them, it's going to be a piece of the puzzle. If UC Santa Barbara, this just comes to mind from Zach Clemens, but if UC Santa Barbara went to Hunter Dickinson and said, we're going to give you $1 billion, I don't think he'd go there. I don't think it's solely about money for him. I think it's weighing, hey, where can he compete and win while also maximizing the earning potential. And I think this is something that, Kansas has really, with the Mass Street Collective, it's really improved. And I think it's been, lauded as one of the better collectives nationally in terms of actually getting players paid. That's something I think that maybe some people don't necessarily understand all the time is that you see numbers floated around, but those are just numbers. Like, what are the collectives actually paying these players? And I think I've heard some stories about collectives promising big amounts and not being able to follow through. And it sounds like, by all accounts, that, KU's Mass Street Collective, or I should say Mass Street Collective, right? Not tied to KU, but is able to pay it out. And so I think for Hunter specifically, money is a factor. I don't think it's the only factor. I think he has said before that winning at a high level is something that he wants to look at. But I think to some degree as well, all these players kind of say the same things. And if he decides to go to Maryland, he can win a Big Ten title at Maryland. Is he going to win a national title? I will be willing to bet a lot of money that the answer to that is no. So it's kind of just he's got different factors he's weighing, and you can't really blame him for whatever argument he makes, because I think each school he's considering, you can make a really strong argument for why he would pick there or why he'd fit.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net 24/7 Sports. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Joins us every Tuesday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Find Michael on Twitter at mswain247. Kansas basketball did get a notable transfer portal commitment last week from Arterio Morris, former Texas guard and five-star recruit who played just 1 year with the Longhorns before announcing his intentions to transfer and then choosing Kansas. We'll get to the player in a moment, but Arterio Morris is still facing a Class A misdemeanor assault charge in the state of Texas, stemming from an incident in the summer of 2022 with an ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend made some allegations that were public on Instagram. The trial was set to happen in March. It has since been postponed to an unspecified date. What do you know about the progress in that, and how comfortable was Kansas, and maybe how comfortable should they have been bringing in this player with these allegations hanging over his head?
Yeah, I think for starters, generally I think you'd want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I think as we've seen throughout sports, a lot of times these situations, the due diligence, quote unquote, falls short, right? I think you compare situations right in the National Football League, things like that where the team has fallen short. I don't know specifically who KU has talked to, and I think that's going to be part of what we discuss with Bill Self whenever he talks this summer during his basketball camps in June, right? Getting more background info of what this looks like, because it doesn't look great at face value, right? A guy who is still waiting a trial is going to happen in June to take a commitment from someone like that, and for something as serious as domestic violence, they're going out on a limb. And I don't necessarily know what Kansas knows, and I'm not going to try and speculate or make excuses for them. They're going to have to answer questions, and I think it goes all the way up to, people higher up in the athletic department as well, having to answer questions about this, because it's very serious, and it's one of these situations where you don't know necessarily how it's going to play out right now. And it could, charges could get dropped in the end, or he could get prosecuted and it could go through and he could face, a hefty fine, or even there's a part of the language there in Texas where there is technically an avenue where he could go to prison. So you don't know how it's going to play out. I don't see that happening, the latter part of that, but it's still one of these things where those questions will have to be answered probably in the month of June.
If Arterio Morris makes it to campus, he is a 5-star point guard recruit, and Kansas seems pretty settled at the point guard spot with DeJuan Harris. Does he stay on that on the ball role, or what does the role even look like, the fit even look like for this player when we're considering especially the fit relative to is the juice worth the squeeze when you consider, and I don't mean to be flippant, but is it worth bringing a player with this baggage to campus?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the on the court fit, you have to go back to what Bill Self said pretty late on in the season before KU played Texas, I think for the second time. Self talked about Texas's backcourt, how they had Tyrese Hunter, Marcus Carr, and Serge Rice, 3 guards for 2 spots. And he's really seemed enamored by the fact that Texas had 3 really quality guards for those 2 spots, where they could always have 2 ball handlers on the floor, 2 guys that can create offense, can create their own shot on the floor at the same time. And I think that's what Kansas is probably trying to get to, where you've got DeJuan Harris on the floor, you've got maybe Arterio Morris on the floor, and then you've also got Marco Jackson. So right there, you've got 3 guards for those 2 spots. Now, I think probably the big question would be, hey, space on the floor, what's that going to look like, right? Is DeJuan Harris still going to shoot, above 38% from 3? What's Marco Jackson going to shoot as a true freshman? And Arterio Morris, wasn't great from behind the 3-point arc, but was modest enough. So I think it's one of these situations where, Kansas now has the ability to get back to kind of some of those backcourts you saw with, Devontae Graham and Frank Mason, where it's guys that are combo guards, can handle the ball and can really create. And then that also allows someone like Nick Timberlake now to play the 3, where he doesn't necessarily have to handle the ball a lot, where he can be a spot-up shooter, attack closeouts, and really fit into a specific role. And I think that's something that probably fits him a lot better than having to be a 2-guard who maybe has to handle the ball a little bit more.
Just a couple more minutes with Michael Swain from Fog.net, KU beat writer for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can find him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael joins us every Tuesday on the show for Jayhawk Weekly. In advance, I know I'm going to butcher this gentleman's name, but right now on campus at KU, Mackenzie, I'm going to guess Mbako, who was originally a 5-star recruit in this year's class, committed to Duke. He ends up decommitting from Duke, gets let out of his national letter of intent. He's on a visit at KU right now. What should we know about Mackenzie, and what kind of fit would he have at Kansas?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the first name basis here, Brendan. I think he's someone that really fits what Kansas is going to look for. Bill Self said at that kind of press conference he had in April, right? He's looking for someone that can kind of tall, athletic, can shoot the ball. And for, I think, the first portion of the portal, there really wasn't a guy like that. I think you saw KU pivot to someone like Harrison Ingram, who's tall, kind of athletic, can maybe a little bit, but is more of a facilitator. And then, he goes to North Carolina, and then Jalen Tyson is another guy they look at who's probably on the smaller side, more of a 3 than a 4. And then all of a sudden you find someone like Mackenzie, who is the perfect blend of that, right? He's got the size at 6'8", 210, 215 pounds, right? He can shoot the 3 ball. He can create his own shot, and he's the type of guy that if Kansas has Hunter Dickinson, who can really feast off of teams having a double team, or if it's Ernest Uday starting, right? If you run those pick and rolls with the lobs, well, you can have Mackenzie camped out in the corner, and have him knock down corner threes that are efficient looks. So I think he's a type of player that on the court really fits Kansas and probably what they're looking for at that 4 spot. I think KU would give him an opportunity to be a lot like Grady Dick last year, where, hey, we're going to have a specific role for you. You're going to come in and play. You may not be the number 1 guy on the team or maybe even the number 2 guy on the team for certain stretches of the season. But if you come in, you fill your role, and you show what you can do in your skill set, you can be a one-and-done player and get to that NBA dream that you have. So I think it's a really interesting recruiting pitch for KU, and I think by all accounts, Jayhawks are right in the mix for him.
2 real quick hitters for you, Michael, then we'll let you go on this Tuesday afternoon. One more basketball question. With Zach Clements announcing this week he is headed to UC Santa Barbara, Joe Yesufu late last week announced he's going to Washington State. Surprised he went high major again. What's the best fit for of the 5 KU players who transferred? Who ended up in the best situation?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bobby Pettiford. I think he's the type of guy that now can go and be on the ball and get his opportunities. I think that was always going to be the issue at Kansas, right? His eligibility lined up with DeJuan Harris, and by all accounts, right, if he can stay healthy, he was a guy the coaching staff really felt had a future at Kansas, and obviously injuries hampered that, but I think he's got a really good fit. MJ Rice, I'm just not sure. NC State, they've got some guys coming in from the portal. UC Santa Barbara, they also got, I believe, Traore from Auburn, who's a former top 50 recruit at one point. So that might be a tougher fit for Clements, but I really do like Bob Pettiford and what he might be able to do there.
All right, we've got just about a minute here for the last one. Football question. How surprised were you that neither Lonnie Phelps nor Earl Bostic got drafted?
Not terribly surprised. I think because when you look at guys in the draft and you get to that 7th round, it's a question of, all right, do you want to be drafted or do you want to pick where you go and pick maybe a better fit? And I think we've seen, right, Dallas has been a great spot for former Kansas players who are undrafted free agents. I think it's a really good spot for Earl Bostic. I think Lonnie Phelps, what the Browns do, I believe will probably fit his skill set. So I think I'm not terribly surprised, but I think they both probably got some good places where maybe they can make an impact or at least maybe try and make the roster, if not practice squad.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for 24/7 Sports and Fog.net. That's where you can find all of his work covering KU. You can also follow him on Twitter at mswain247, and he joins us every Tuesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, we appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for taking the time for us, and go listen to a good podcast before we talk to you next week.
Thank you. I can do.
That is Michael Swain from Fog.net on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Great stuff on all things KU. Eventually, Hunter Dickinson is going to make a decision. When is that going to be? I don't even think he knows, but at some point, hopefully it ends up being KU. We've got to get to a break for the national and local news. We will lead off the start of the 5 o'clock hour with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. That's all coming up right here on 580 WIBW.
The best things.
Hey now, 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday, May 2nd. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero. We're here with you until 6 o'clock when we'll kick things over to the Royals Radio Network for pregame coverage of Royals versus Orioles tonight. 6:40 first pitch. You can hear the full game, pregame, postgame as well right here on 580 IBW. Oh my gosh, had a little oof. I'm back though.
I was concerned you'd forgotten our call letters.
Where are we? Where?
How many times are they on the wall in the studio?
Yeah, okay.
7.
We got 4 in here alone. Yeah, they're backwards over there.
There's one on the big book next to you. There's a coffee mug with it on behind you, a cup in reverse.
Yeah,
once.
I've only worked here for 6 years. No, hopefully I wouldn't forget that. But that is coming up tonight here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. If you've missed any of the show so far, head to our website. That's 580WIBW.com. Hover over the podcasts tab right in the middle of the page, and then click on 580 Sports Talk, and that's where you'll find our show broken down hour by hour. And, of course, you can find all of our old shows, the current live stream, any of our draft video content, all on our YouTube channel, which is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Shout out to all you guys watching at home, at work, or wherever you might be today on the YouTube stream. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines here in just a minute, our Royals-Orioles preview for tonight coming up in a little bit, and, of course, we'll get to your texts. The number is 785-272-9429 to text into the show, and then you can also hit us up in the comment section on YouTube. Again, the channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Without further ado, let's hop in and let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. First one for me, it is a local headline for the Kansas City Chiefs. They alluded to this yesterday that it was probably coming, and it has since been gotten done. It's been reported by all the outlets. Now, Jayhawk McKinnon back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Do not know terms of the deal. I'm assuming it's a one-year deal, probably around $2 million-ish.
Sure.
Yeah, probably about that. Natural fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. Coming off the best year of his career, 803 yards from scrimmage. He had 10 total touchdowns last year, 9 through the air, including 6 straight weeks with a receiving touchdown, weeks 12 through 17. That's an NFL record for a running back. He's a good pass protector. He is the ultimate third down back. You don't need him to run the ball all that much. If Pacheco fumbles, that's when Jayhawk McKinnon gets handoffs. That's when he gets carries. But you don't need him to run it much. He's a good pass protector. He knows the scheme very well. He can catch the ball. He's good in space. You don't have to use him a ton early on in the season. Try to save those legs for later in the year. He's been a godsend for this Chiefs offense, especially at the end of last year, the end and into the playoffs in 21 as well. Just a great piece for this team, and I think we're all pretty happy he's back. I'm sure he's happy he's back. Brad Veach said before the draft, like, look, Jayhawk likes to take his time. We're not going to push it. After the draft, we'll talk to him again. And draft ended. They called him up. Brad Veach said yesterday, yeah, it'll probably get done. Now it's done. Good fit. And now your running back room is pretty much set. You've got, we'll get to Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a minute. He's still on the roster. Isaiah Pacheco's your RB1. Your third down back is Jayhawk McKinnon. And then we'll see what Deneric Prince can do.
Yeah.
They carried, if you want to include the fullback, they carried 4 last year. So it's not out of the question they carry 4 again this year if they really like that speed option that Prince gives them.
Or they could cut Clyde Edwards-Helaire because they're not tied to him beyond this season. They opted today not to pick up his 5th-year option. So in a very predictable move. So, yeah, I mean, that might be a battle for a roster spot, and Clyde might be fighting for his roster spot in camp. We'll see how that develops. But, yeah, man, Jayhawk McKinnon it's like the bassist. You know, you listen to a band, and you'd notice if the bassist weren't there. You don't always notice the bassist.
Yeah.
But if you took him away, you'd notice.
Yeah.
And that might be selling McKinnon short because in December last year, he was the lead guitarist on that offense in some games with the volume at which he was scoring touchdowns. But he's just a piece that kind of ties it all together. The things that he offers the offense are so valuable, particularly for the Chiefs offense. And he's got a good rapport with Patrick Mahomes. I do. I like the player a lot, and I really like the fit a lot.
Glad he's back. Probably a 1-year deal, but we'll find that out soon enough.
All right, let's go ahead and do it this time. And I got the sound fixed.
Playoffs?
Roundup time. We're talking
Playoffs?
Yes, indeed. It is time for the most popular segment within a segment on this program. It is called the Playoff Roundup. We'll start in the NHL, where the first round came to an end last night. The New Jersey Devils completed a comeback from a 2-0 series deficit against the New York Rangers with a 4-0 win last night in Newark. The Devils are the final team into the conference semifinals. So the semifinals are set tonight. Game 1 in the Eastern Conference between the Florida Panthers, who of course shocked the 65-win Boston Bruins, and the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are now the money favorite, the betting favorite to win the Stanley Cup for the first time since 1967.
Surely that can't go poorly.
I mean, it only took them 19 years to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard the radio call of their overtime game winner in Game 6, but the color analyst on the Leafs radio network actually said, "What do we do now?"
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, all-time great line. Anyhow, Panthers Leafs tonight in Toronto. Kraken Stars tonight in Dallas. Seattle, their first ever playoff appearance in their second year of existence, on to the second round, taking on the Dallas Stars. The other first-round series, the Devils will advance, take on the Carolina Hurricanes. The Edmonton Oilers face the Vegas Golden Knights. Those series will open tomorrow night. So who do you got in the 4 playoff series in the 4 semifinals?
Give me, the series that are starting tonight, give me Leafs and Stars to win both of those series.
Right there with you.
And I will take the Devils and the Oilers.
I am right there with you. You and I are in lockstep. You know puck.
I always have. Big puck head.
Kraken Stars is going to be very unpleasant to watch. It's going to be a very defense-first hockey series. Like, obviously, I'm disappointed the Avalanche didn't get out of the first round. But if you'd offer me the choice between, okay, you get to beat the Kraken in Game 7, but then you have to watch a very dull and unpleasant 5-game loss to the Dallas Stars, a team that I have hated since I was a teenager, I think I would have said, all right, fine. They lose in Game 7 to Seattle. That's cool. Well, somebody else has to go through the root canal playing as a Pete DeBoer coach team. That's fine with me. So those are your matchups in the NHL. Last night in the National Basketball Association, James Harden with 45 points to lift the Joel Embiid-less Philadelphia 76ers past the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of their Eastern Conference semifinal. A game that included one of the funnier plays I've ever seen in NBA history, when nobody on the Celtics wanted to shoot in a tied game with the shot clock about to expire in the final 30 seconds. And Malcolm Brogdon turned with like fractions of a second on the shot clock and flung the ball directly to Tyrese Maxey for a breakaway layup the other way. Maxey kept looking around as if he expected like the whistle to blow or something to happen, because this couldn't be happening. He was as shocked as anybody else in the building. That did not prove to be the winning basket. A pull-up hero ball 3 from Harden was the winner, but still absolute choke job by Boston down the stretch. And I don't know about Joel Embiid's ability or availability for the rest of this series. The knee injury he's working with doesn't sound like one that's going to be real easy for him to recover from. But Boston needed to take advantage of a game without Joel Embiid in Boston. That's a bad Game 1 loss.
Very funny, though. I don't really like
so
this.
Funny.
I don't really care about the Celtics, but if I did have to care, I would say I don't like them. That's how I would assess that. And if Joel Embiid's not going to play, it doesn't matter for the Sixers. Like, one good game is not going to fix it, because James Harden's not going to score 45 points 7 games in a row. And without the MVP of the league and all, one of the contenders for MVP in the league, I don't know how the Sixers get out of that. But it was fun for one game at least.
Speaking of MVP, they're going to award that in 45 minutes, actually. The announcement of the league MVP will be in 45 minutes. So one team won a playoff game without the services of the guy who's actually going to win MVP. The guy who should win MVP but is not going to, the same guy who's won the last 2 of them, put 39 and 16 on the Phoenix Suns last night as Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets defeated the Suns to take a 2-0 lead in that Western Conference semifinal. The Suns decided they were going to single cover Nikola Jokic last night, and 39 and 16 on a night where Jamal Murray could not make a shot for 3 quarters. On a night where Michael Porter Jr. gave them nothing, Nikola Jokic carried him over the finish line. Also, Chris Paul got hurt. What a shock. Unbelievably, Chris Paul is dealing with an injury during the playoffs. That's never happened before. Tweaked his groin in the third quarter.
That's karma.
Yeah, no kidding. Anytime he gets a groin injury, it's karma. Status unclear for game 3, which is 3 days from now. The teams have tonight, tomorrow, and the next night off before resuming game 3 in Phoenix. But Denver in the catbird seat in that series behind the should-be MVP.
Lakers dubs, who you got tonight?
Lakers Warriors opens tonight. I think Golden State's going to win that series. I think those are two very flawed teams. I don't think either of those teams is beating either Denver or, Phoenix is super flawed too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say out loud what I'm thinking because I am afraid to jinx it. But there is one team in the Western Conference that appears to have depth and size and 5 players on the floor at one time who can score.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the Lakers, and it's not the Warriors, and it's not the Suns. So you do the math on that.
I am mostly excited for the Lakers-Warriors series because there will be a game when Anthony Davis gets put in a body bag by Kevon Looney. It will happen. It is as sure as God made green apples, that is going to happen.
So, this is a LeBron-Steph playoff series, and we shouldn't take that for granted. It's pretty amazing to get to see those two guys on this stage again after we kind of thought maybe we wouldn't see that again because it looked like, maybe Steph's days of playing at this level were over. And then, of course, they win the title last year, but maybe we thought LeBron's days of playing at a certain level or getting his team to a certain level were over. And now here they are playing in the conference semifinals. It's pretty neat. It's going to do crazy ratings. I think it's going to go long. I hope it goes long. As a fan of a team who might get to play the winner of that series, featuring a bunch of old guys, I hope that series goes 7 games. But I think the Warriors win the series. I think they have more good players than the Lakers.
Yeah, give me Warriors in 6.
Game 2 tonight also in the Heat-Knicks series. Heat have a 1-0 lead. Heat do not have Jimmy Butler tonight. He tweaked his ankle at the end of game 1 and has been ruled out for tonight. I have not seen whether or not Julius Randle or Jalen Brunson are going to play for the Knicks tonight. Both are questionable.
Give me the Knicks. Honest to God, without either of those guys, I'm still taking the Knicks over the Heat without Jimmy Butler. With Jimmy, that team is scary. Without him, it's a bunch of number 4 options. So I will take the Knicks in that game tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Next headline on our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. Back to the NFL. We mentioned one of these earlier. Tomorrow is the deadline for NFL teams to pick up or decline the 5th-year option for their first-round picks in the year 2020. We've already mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire had his decline. We're going to get to more of those in a second. Can you believe there's 4 players from the first round in 2020 who are already out of football? Now, granted, for a couple of them, well, one in particular, just horrible.
Henry Ruggs is going to prison. He is going to actually, there's news on him today.
Yeah.
He is going to plead guilty to a couple of charges, 1 count of DUI resulting in death and 1 count of misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter in that 2021 case. So, yeah, he's going to jail.
Yeah, that's awful. Jeff Gladney died.
Yeah, auto wreck, right?
Auto wreck last year, yeah, which is horrible. And then Damon Arnett also, every single person in someone's life tells you, hey, this guy has red flags, and you say we're still going to spend a top 20 pick on him, you deserve to get fired, and that's what happened to Mike Mayock. He's out of the league, as is Isaiah Wilson. 4 dudes. It took 3 or fewer years for them to all be out of football. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is truly absurd. So, of the guys, the notable names who did or did not have their options picked up this week, or at least recently, the nose, that is honestly a little bit more intriguing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we already talked about him. Chase Young of the Commanders, I thought he was going to be different, man, but he's just been so hurt.
Yeah.
And when he came back from the injury, he just wasn't good. Maybe another year he'll be better, though, and he'll make it big in free agency next year. Isaiah Simmons, the Olathe product, he did not have his option picked up. He's had a rough start to his career in Arizona, too.
I don't think Arizona is any closer to knowing what he is as an NFL player.
It is hard enough to be a quote-unquote positionless player. In theory, that's great because you can be a box safety. You can be an edge rusher. You can be, Micah Parsons is that. He could be an inside linebacker, an off-ball linebacker. He could be an edge rusher. He could do anything. But he's got a good defensive coaching staff. Dan Quinn is a great defensive coach.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona's coaches eat Elmer's glue for lunch. That's what he's been dealing with during his career. Other notable ones, the Jets today declined the option of Mekhi Becton, who they drafted number 11 overall.
Another guy who can't stay healthy.
That sucks because he's great when he is healthy. Truly great. And he's just hurt all the time. He's played one game in the last 2 years. Kenneth Murray, former Oklahoma standout, his option has been declined by the Los Angeles Chargers. Jordan Brooks of the Seahawks.
He is currently injured. Tore his ACL at the end of last season.
And Patrick Queen of the Baltimore Ravens. It took a long time for people to realize, like at least into 2 full years of Queen's career, to realize he's not a good NFL player. Like he doesn't have great instincts and he's kind of undersized and he's not very fast, which as a linebacker are all really bad things. I still see Packers fans say, finally, we can go get him in free agency. Dog, he sucks. He's not a good player. You don't want that. I don't understand. As for the guys who have had options picked up that are notable, all the quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, duh. Justin Herbert, duh. Tua, duh. Andrew Thomas, the offensive tackle for the Giants, he had his picked up today. He had a iffy first season. The last 2 years, he's been awesome. He has become a really darn good left tackle. Jedrick Wills, left tackle of the Browns. He's had some injury concerns, but he's been very good when he's on the field. Jerry Jeudy got his picked up. I was a little surprised by that, to be honest with you. But I don't know if there's any better option they have right now.
Yeah, he had a good final month, really good final month of the season. And yeah, he's wide receiver number 1 in Denver right now. And I guess they look at it and say, hey, if he's our number 1 wide receiver, we got to keep him around for a cost-controlled 5th year, especially the going rate for wide receivers. Like if that was a harbinger of something, they want to be on the train.
I would imagine there's probably an element of Sean Payton, I can fix this guy too.
Sure.
I would imagine there's at least a little trickle of that.
A lot of that going on in Denver right now.
The most interesting one of the day, I'm curious what your take on this is. Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
He did not have his option picked up, nor declined. The Packers just signed him to a 1-year extension. It reminds me a little bit of when young players have their arbitration bought out in baseball. That, hey, you're under team control for 1 more season and you've got 3 arbitration years. What if we just give you a 4-year contract? We avoid arbitration. You're going to get guaranteed money. What if we did that? That's essentially what the Packers did with the 5th-year option for Jordan Love. So he's going to get less money guaranteed up front, but more incentives for what will be his 5th season. Brian Gutekunst said this week, like, hey, look, we like Jordan, but that's a lot of money to guarantee someone who's never played before. Like, yeah, that's a fair point. And you can understand why he didn't play. Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs after he was drafted. Understandable things. I think it's a smart move. It's a smart move for Love because you want a little security if maybe your first year as a starter doesn't go well, and he's still going to get a fairly nice guarantee out of it. And it makes sense for the Packers because, A, if Love is good, you can extend him at any time. You can just extend him next year. Or if he's not good, well, you didn't tie yourself down to a lot of guaranteed money next year.
It doesn't project a lot of faith that they think Jordan Love is good.
Okay.
I guess is my reaction. And maybe that's a misread. And maybe I'm coming at this from the bias of I never really thought Jordan Love was like a 1st-round pick kind of player and was surprised that that's what he became. And I feel like the situation in Green Bay has obviously not been ideal as far as he's been concerned. But if you thought he was going to be that guy, you just pick up the 5th-year option. You wouldn't pick up the phone and say, hey, I know we got a 5th-year option on you that we can just exercise and call it good. But no, here's the 1-year extension. Take it or leave it.
No, I think that's fair.
And I think that does not project a lot of faith in this guy that you've drafted and you've invested 3 years into developing and now have handed the keys to, and it was time to hand the keys to Jordan Love one way or another. But I think if they just picked up the 5th-year option, it's like, okay, yeah, now he's got 2 years. He's got 2 years to show you something, and you're committed for those 2 years. But now it kind of feels like, okay, you're not that committed to him. You're not that in love with him. Feels like a promise ring and not an engagement ring.
That's fair. I've seen that take a lot, and I think that completely understandable why it would look like that. I don't have a problem with it, but it's also not my money. So
right.
I guess that's another way to look at it. But that is your update. The deadline is tomorrow at 3 to pick up the options. One player, by the way, does not have who was the 1st-round pick that year. They are not eligible for the option. It's Jeff Okudah, who's now with the Falcons. So if you're traded on your option or before you get to the option year, like Jalen Reagor, you can still have it picked up.
Jalen Reagor did not get his option picked up, by the way.
Not surprising, no. But if you're traded the year when it has to get picked up, like Okudah has been, the option goes away. So he's just on a 1-year contract.
Next headline for me here in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Dylan Brooks made a lot of headlines during his short stay in the NBA playoffs. The Memphis Grizzlies guard / agitator famously said he pokes bears after game 2 of the Western Conference first round series between the Grizzlies and the Lakers, which the Grizzlies won and Brooks played fine in. Dylan Brooks' whole thing is to defend, to shoot some threes, and to annoy the other team, be a bit of a pest. Well, he successfully annoyed LeBron James into beating the ever-loving hell out of him and his teammates. He also got ejected from a game for punching LeBron in the gonads. He shot 23% from the field in the series, and this was all going into or wrapping up a contract year. So the Memphis Grizzlies today have apparently made it clear and wanted Shams Charania to make it clear to everyone. This is the tweet. The Memphis Grizzlies have informed pending free agent Dylan Brooks that he will not be brought back under any circumstances, league sources say. There is a meme out there. It was the first thing I thought of a pull quote, not a real quote, but a fake pull quote of Adam Silver saying, "Better learn Chinese, buddy."
Yeah. Like, where do you go from here? I mean, he's got to be persona non grata in the NBA right now, right?
So
who wants to deal with those antics?
So, yeah, it's not just that he talked big and failed to back it up. A lot of guys have done that. It's that he talked big, failed to back it up on the court, failed like catastrophically. Like, if you are a 3-and-D wing who shoots 24% from 3 in a playoff series, then you're not a 3-and-D wing. And if you're a 3-and-D wing and LeBron gives you 20 and 20 in a must-win game, and then you're supposed to be playing defense for a team that gets cooked by 40 points in the closeout game, like what you're not providing any actual value to the team. And then when you refuse to talk to the media after spending the entire year telling anyone with a microphone how much you love being the bad guy and you embrace the villain role and you poke bears, like, at that point, you're not dealing with an adult at that point. And Memphis's problem, as we pointed out several times during the playoff roundup while Memphis's short-lived playoff run was happening, Memphis suffered from a lack of adults in the room. They've got a big problem with Ja Morant making really dumb decisions off the court right now. That's the face of your franchise. You can't give up on Ja Morant. You can't move on from Ja Morant. He's the foundation. You just have to hope he gets smarter and he makes better decisions and he figures it out. But with Dylan Brooks, a free agent, you can say, hey, this isn't our problem anymore. Enjoy. I hear Guangdong is lovely this time of year.
What's the phrase Jake always uses? Be better than your problems?
Be better than your problems. Yep.
Well, Dylan Brooks isn't good at anything on the basketball court, but he does have a lot of problems both on and off it. I'm not great at math, but that doesn't seem like two equal sums there. No, I mean, I'm sure he will kill it, for the Maccabi Tel Aviv B team next year. Like, I'm sure he'll do a great job.
The best part, of course, of the tweet is the under any circumstances part of the tweet.
That was directly told to Shams.
Yes. And the Grizzlies wanted to make sure that everybody knew there is not a feasible circumstance under which we would welcome Dylan Brooks back to the Memphis Grizzlies. If the team were on a boat trip and it capsized, still wouldn't do it. If aliens abducted Desmond Bane, we would not replace him with Dylan Brooks.
If our entire team perished suddenly and he was the only available player to replace them with, we would fold the franchise.
If the NBA expanded to 797 teams, we would still opt not to sign Dylan Brooks to fill out our 12-man roster.
Really, if they expanded the roster to 797 players, we would not take Dylan Brooks back on our roster. It's very, should I wish for bad things to happen? I don't know Dylan Brooks. Maybe in private, he's a really nice guy. This makes me feel like he might not be, but I don't want to speak ill of the guy. But when you create this persona, frankly, and then you can't back it up, and you look like a clown, and you're punching dudes in the junk and getting kicked out of playoff games. Like, bleep around and find out. That's what he did, and he is now in the finding out portion of the equation.
Yeah, it's hard not to feel like he's earned this. And
completely.
If he were a guy that like all of his teammates loved, like number one, you would have known it by now because all of his teammates would have, wrapped themselves around him after the playoffs. Say, hey, look, we love Dylan. He can be a lot, but we love him. He's important to us. They could have had his back publicly. And if he were really beloved in that locker room and really important to what the Grizzlies want to be, they would not have put out a release saying that they were not going to bring him back under any circumstances.
That's too funny.
Under any circumstances. Showing up at the front door to team headquarters like, hey, I have straightened up and decided to fly right, and I have worked really hard on my game, and I am working very hard on being a trustworthy teammate. Sorry, bud. Not interested.
The Shanghai Sharks will love that attitude. It's too funny. Any other headlines for you?
No, we can call it there.
One quick one for me because it pertains to a former local athlete.
Okay.
Tough day for Lawrence High product Amani Bledsoe.
Yeah.
You may remember his very high-profile recruitment. KU got beat out by Oklahoma. Amani, I don't remember if he got drafted or not. He was a 4-star prospect, went to Lawrence High. He has been suspended for the first 17 weeks of the regular season per Tom Pelissero. He's been suspended for the year. Currently a free agent. He committed his second PED violation that he got caught for. Buddy, if it didn't work the first time, I would not do it a second time. By the way, that 6-game suspension last year.
Yeah.
Yikes. So the former Lawrence High product done for 2023. And if I had to guess, that might be it for his NFL career in totality. Let's take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. We got more of the program coming up next, including a little bit later on our preview of Royals-Orioles tonight. It's all coming up here on 580 WIBW. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for swinging by 580 Sports Talk today. Did you see this story, Dan, about betting on Alabama baseball?
I did.
Wild story. And so it popped up in the state of Ohio. As you may know, if you followed the legalization and the process to get there of sports gambling in the U.S. and in specific states, there's no national gambling law, essentially, at least when it comes to sports. So state by state, different entities have to say, you can bet on this, you can't bet on this, it's legal, it's illegal, etc. In Ohio this week, gambling regulators, this is from a report by David Purdum of ESPN, gambling regulators in Ohio were instructed to no longer take bets on college baseball games involving the Alabama Crimson Tide after quote-unquote suspicious wagering activity was detected during an Alabama game against LSU on Friday. And somebody from the Ohio Casino Control Commission said, quote, the acceptance of any wagers on University of Alabama baseball, they prohibit the acceptance of wagers on Alabama baseball effective immediately. Do we have any word what this supposed suspicious wagering activity was?
Yes, we do.
Oh.
Yes, we do. So the Louisiana Gaming Control. Okay, so Friday, U.S. Integrity, which is a Las Vegas-based firm that monitors the betting markets, issued an alert to its sportsbook clients regarding suspicious wagering activity involving the Alabama LSU game. The Louisiana Gaming Control Board told NOLA.com that two specific bets, both made in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the BetMGM Sportsbook located at Great American Ballpark, the home of the Cincinnati Reds, triggered the suspicious activity alert. One was on a parlay, which involved the LSU-Alabama game, and then there was another straight-up bet, moneyline bet, and a large bet that involved LSU-Alabama.
Why did that trigger it?
It must have been massive amounts of money. Pete Rose, you rascal.
He's still living in Cincinnati?
I doubt it. I think he lives in Vegas, just goes to sign his autographs every day.
Probably. That's odd. That's very odd. I'm wondering why that was tripped off. We had a story about this earlier in the year or late last year, didn't we? Where something got shut off in New Jersey, I think. There have been a couple of stories like this. There was we had the Will Levis thing last week where someone went on Reddit and said, I know Will Levis, and he said the Panthers have told him he's the number one pick. The theory on that, by the way, was that somebody had bought a Will Levis ticket. They had played that at crazy odds, made that post so people would pay it down like crazy, and then he could cash it out for a profit. That is the prevailing rumor at the moment.
Very normal, healthy behavior.
And then I'm trying to think of other instances recently when this has happened. I thought I had another one, but yeah, it's betting market's wild, man. Like, and I appreciate that they are super strict about it because that's, you talk about the integrity of the game and all that.
It never occurred to me that you could bet on college baseball. Like, I don't think I've never gone digging in those crates.
I have never done it for what it is worth. But I did see, actually, I think it was on DraftKings, if I remember correctly, they had a little button for college baseball right on the homepage. And I thought, why? Why would I do this? Why would anyone do this? I'm not that desperate.
This is the kind of thing that is a story we're going to hear more and more as more states legalize gambling, as it becomes a bigger industry, and as it gets closer to the sports themselves. I mean, you can go to a Reds game, the irony of ironies, Pete Rose's franchise. You can go to a Reds game and place a bet on the Reds or on the Seattle Kraken or on the Kentucky Derby from the baseball game that you're supposed to be at. I frankly still wrestle with like the appropriateness of teams and leagues and certainly players being so closely tied to the sports books. Like,
it is weird.
It's one thing when it's us, when we're just talking as pals. We have no influence. Like, I don't have a Major League Baseball player on my phone. I can't text a Kansas City Royal and say, hey, man, I got you to hit a double tonight. Need you to really run hard out of the box tonight because I got you at plus 350 to hit a double. Like, I can't do that. I don't have that kind of stroke. Most people don't. Like, and the thing about people want to jump to the broader conclusion about like, oh man, there's going to be all kinds of scandals. There's going to be another Black Sox scandal. Like, no, those guys were working for almost literally peanuts and took a bigger payday than what they were being offered by their owner. Famously, like this is in the movie, they were making more money than their owner was willing to pay them to lose the World Series. Is anybody going to break Aaron Judge off more than how many millions is he making this year?
Let's see. Aaron Judge this year, he signed a 9-year, $360 million contract. This year, his base salary is $40 million.
Yeah, somebody going to break him off enough money to make it worth it for him to throw a World Series? Never mind that. What about a guy, another Yankee, famously well-known Yankee, Jake Bauers, making the league minimum? Like, are you gonna break off more than $560K to make it worth his while to go throw a World Series? No, it's just that's not going to happen. We're not going to see that again.
Can you imagine some shady guy in a fedora walking up to Kevin Durant behind Walking Stick Arena or Talking Stick or whatever the place is in Phoenix and saying, I got 10 G's for you if you throw this game. I've got your under 30 points, rebounds, assists. I got 10K for you. He says, my watch costs $10,000. Like, what are you trying to pull here? I appreciate that. I also saw this week the union, the NFL Players Association, sent out a note to all the certified agents and said, hey, look, the NFL's got this rule, and the NFL has access to data from the sports books that say who is using it, when and where they're using it. So make sure you tell your clients, again, don't bet in the team facilities. Like, if you really need to be told that many times, you're an idiot. It's all over the locker room. It's all over the team lounge areas. You get a talking to every year from personnel within the team, probably multiple times. Nowadays, it probably will be multiple times per year. Like, if you still don't know, dude, it's your own fault, and I feel no sympathy that you're getting suspended.
Can you maintain, at the end of the day, even the appearance of impropriety if you are a professional sports team with a sports book in your stadium? Or now, as I understand it, I think the English Premier League used to have like half their teams had a gambling house on the front of their uniforms, like as their main kit sponsor. I think they have phased that out. They have decided, hey, we maybe flew too close to the sun here, and this isn't what we need to be putting on the front of our uniforms. I don't know if we're going to see like a Bet 365 patch on the Cincinnati Reds jerseys or an MGM patch on somebody's jersey. I don't know if we're going to get to that point. That to me would feel like a bridge too far. Absolutely it would, because like it just can't have that appearance of the possibility, even the scantest possibility of impropriety, of the legitimacy of your event.
Speaking of England, when I lived in Leicester for a semester, when I was studying over there, there's this company called Ladbrokes. It's a gambling house. There were 11 different locations in that one city. I mean, it's size of 1 million people or so, but it's not gigantic. It's not overwhelmingly huge. There were 11 of them. No, 12. I'm sorry, I missed one. There were 12 different places you could just walk in on your way to the store, place a bet, and walk out. Like, this is everywhere. And I think at some point there's going to be less like, oh my God, there's going to be these huge scandals, or oh my God, this, and that. But you do need to keep some level of separation, I think, specifically from the players to the actual gaming, because they're the ones who can change things and make things look way shadier, which is, again, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, why the NBA's new CBA is so stupid. So very, extremely stupid. We have to get to a timeout. We'll preview the Royals game tonight, coming up next on 580 Sports Talk.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque
Royals taking on the Orioles tonight. 6:40 first pitch, 6 o'clock pregame start time. So here in just a few minutes on the Royals Radio Network on 580 WIBW. The Royals will send Ryan Yarbrough to the mound. Tyler Wells is the starter tonight for the Orioles. Tyler Wells on the season, 2.79 ERA. His walks and hits per inning pitched, also known as WHIP, .729. That's the best mark in all of Major League Baseball entering today. On the other side, Ryan Yarbrough has been bad. So that's your pitching matchup.
Yeah, Yarbrough is obviously overextended as a starter, and you hope that Daniel Lynch can take his rotation spot as soon as he's feeling healthy. And that's about all I have to say about Ryan Yarbrough.
We've got some roster changes, as you mentioned earlier. MJ Melendez is now a full-time outfielder, at least
for the short term.
For the
foreseeable future.
Freddie Fermin back up as the backup catcher for the Royals. Nicky Lopez going on the IL because he had appendicitis. I almost called him Franchi Cordero. Franmil Reyes has been sent back to AAA. Man, a lot of remember some Royals guys.
Hey, Franchi's having a year.
Yeah, he is. And then the other notable name, Michael Garcia, has been brought up back from AAA. Had some time in the majors last season. He is back. Will be. Is he in the lineup tonight? Yes, he is, I believe.
Yeah. I do have to correct the record from the text line from the 785, calling this baseball's version of the toilet bowl. You may have missed this. The Orioles are good. The Orioles just missed the playoffs last year, and they are 19-9 so far this year. Now, do I think that Jorge Mateo is going to carry an OPS over 1,000 all year? No, I don't. Do I think that a pitching staff that generally struggles to strike guys out is going to continue to maintain this level of performance? Do I think Yennier Cano is going to go the entire season without allowing a hit or a walk, which has been the case for his first 11 innings and 9 appearances out of the Baltimore bullpen? No, I do not think those things. But Baltimore no longer in the garbage. They are a team that is making the kind of progress that we all kind of wish the Royals were making instead.
The lineup tonight for the boys in blue: Witt, Pasquantino, Perez, your top three. Vinny is DHing tonight. Melendez in right, hitting fourth. Olivares in left. Prado at first. That's your middle third. And then the bottom of the order: Massey at second, Michael Garcia at third, hitting eighth, Kyle Isbell in center field. If you're going to call him up, you might as well see what he's got.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. You're going to need an option out there as long as Nicky is out. Maybe even after Nicky gets back.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the glove plays. I don't think he's going to hit for a ton of power, but yeah, it's a young guy, and you hope to see some development and some progress from him.
Major League Baseball number 2 hitter, Vinny Pasquantino. He continues to be awesome. Even over the weekend when nobody was really hitting, and he wasn't even all that great, still went 4 for 16 for the weekend. I mean, if hitting 250 over 4 games is a bad series, you'll take that.
Speaking of former Royals cornerman, Ryan O'Hearn is on the 26-man roster of the Baltimore Orioles.
Really?
5 for his first 17 with 6 runs driven in. That's a 294 batting average. Only a 353 slug. Only 1 double out of those 5 hits. So 4 singles, 1 double. So no home run, but currently carrying a 703 OPS off the bench for the O's.
Can you imagine the reflexive boo when he gets subbed in as a pinch hitter?
Just groans. Not even boos, just like, this guy.
But no one was paying attention, so they thought he was still Royal. Oh, he's for the other team. Okay.
Hey, we'll always have those 44 games in 2018 where he hit like prime Mike Sweeney.
The Royals tonight I haven't seen the regular money line for how big of an underdog they are. I know I saw what the run line is, and I was a little surprised that the Orioles were actually getting plus money on the run line. That has since changed. That has, in fact, changed a great deal since last night. The Royals are plus 158, which is a fairly sizable underdog. To bet on the Orioles to win, you'd have to bet $188 to win 100. They're a pretty heavy favorite. That is, if you had to guess, is that the biggest favorite of the night?
No, I would not guess that is the biggest favorite of the night.
And you would be wrong.
Really?
The Orioles over the Royals is, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I misspoke. I will wear the dunce cap for that one. The Padres are a bigger favorite over the Reds, and the Astros are a bigger favorite over the Giants. My browser had not updated. Now I get the full page. So the Orioles are the third biggest favorite of the night. When every team is playing.
The Astros-Giants must be quite a pitching matchup. Oh, no. Hunter Brown, Anthony DeSclafani. DeSclafani's like fine.
Yeah.
That's weird that's what that is.
A little surprising. We've got to get to a break. The final word is next on 580 Sports Talk.
The best things in life are
Let's wrap up 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word before we send it to the Royals Radio Network.
Ramona Shelburne of ESPN reporting that Dylan Brooks thinks he is a $25 million a year player. Let that sink in for a moment. And my hope for all of you is that you would believe in yourself as much as Dylan Brooks clearly believes in himself.
My final word for today is that it's hard to make a lot of promises in life because a lot of things can change. In our business, because things can change very quickly. Maybe you don't even expect change to be coming and things can change. But I will make you this promise. This program will never have a podcast as bad as the one that Hunter Dickinson is on, nor will we tell you, please follow us so we can make more money and then lie to you about what we are going to deliver. That is the promise I can make for 580 Sports Talk that apparently the Roundball podcast cannot make.
That's
for
the
you.
Brendan Brzezinski guarantee, folks.
That is. I will not overtly lie to you. That is my promise to you. That does it for 580 Sports Talk today. Coming up on tomorrow's show, Tim Fitzgerald is going to stop by for this week's edition of the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. We may have a new K-State commitment by then. Their number one transfer portal target, Tyler Perry, is going to announce his commitment tonight at 8:30. So we may have some news on that tomorrow. We'll, of course, talk more Chiefs, more Royals, and so much more. That's tomorrow from 3 until 6. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to 580 Sports Talk. We'll take a quick break. The Royals Radio Network is up next.